this meeting to order. Recording, thank you. All right, so we have 5 members here. Stephen is coming in as an alternate. Thanks for being here. You feel comfortable joining in?
I do.
Love it, thank you. All right, so we got Don Carlson here. We got Tom Hoy, Noel Halverson, and then Tommy is the chair. Thank you everybody for being here. It's a large group, so we'll do our best to kind of move through this meeting in order here. It doesn't sound like we need to move the agenda around. So let's go ahead and before we approve the agenda and the meetings, have all the members of the board had the opportunity to look at the packet? And do they have any problems with potentially voting on any of the items that they need to abstain from?
Nope.
Don's good, Steve's good, Tom's good. Noel, you good? Okay, was that a yes? Okay. All right, so Noel is good. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and approve the agenda for tonight. We have 5 items on the agenda and then some procedural items. I'll take a vote to approve or motion.
So moved, Tommy.
Thanks, Don. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Steve. All right, so approved, seconded there. Let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All any opposed? Okay, great. So agenda is approved for tonight. No moving around, which is good. The approval of the minutes. What was that?
Just a comment here.
Yes,
One
sir.
of the questions is, did you speak to one regarding the variance request?
Ooh,
I
thank you, sir.
I have corresponded with Alderperson Dorf in regards to one of them, and I copied Paul on some of it. So to let you know that there was a conversation via email between myself and Alderperson Dorf.
Yes, thank you. I skipped that item. Is there anybody else that spoke to anybody on this besides the emails that we received about any of these planned agenda items? Okay, great. Did anybody go out to see the properties? Tom, you're sometimes someone who does that? No? Okay, we're good.
I did.
Oh, okay, good. All right, good to know. Do you know, was it all of them or one specifically or?
No, I went to all of them.
Good for you.
New and
Okay.
eager.
Great. Love it. Okay, so you'll have some good context there. All right, so let's go ahead and approve the minutes from last meeting. I didn't see any changes that I needed to make. Anybody else see anything?
No.
If not,
No.
let's get an approval in a second there.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll
Thanks, Tom.
second.
Thanks, Don. So a motion to approve by Tom, a second by Don. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, cool. All right, so let's get on to our regular business. So a lot of people on the call today. I always like to give a little context. We're moving fast just because there's alderpersons here that potentially have double books. Paul also has another meeting to get to, but just how this works, we're going to open up the floor as one vote rather than closing it, opening it. We will close the floor if things get too out of hand. It is digital, so please be respectful because it's, people might be talking over. There's a lot of people that possibly want to contribute. We will call for those that want to speak for, those that want to speak against. Paul will tee up the item for us and discuss, kind of lay it out for us from a city's perspective and what the variance is. When we're ready, we'll have the person who is applying for the variance, give us their testimony as to why. Then we'll hear from alderpersons and any of those that are for or opposed that are on the calls. And we'll just move down the list like that. We'll leave the floor open for discussion, but just please be respectful. Other than that, we'll try and move as fast as possible. Sometimes these are long discussions and sometimes it's real quick. Our job is to basically really look at the code and look at the variance request and look at how this decision we make today lives with that property moving forward for the next 50 years, right? So a lot of it's personal, but at the same time, it also should be looked at objectively as far as the property is concerned. We will go through each item here. There are some other things that we might need to read, emails or stuff, just so it's on the record. So again, bear with us on all of that. So on that note, if there's nothing else anybody from the group here needs to add, let's go ahead and have a motion to open the floor for discussion.
So moved, Tommy.
Thank you, Don. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second.
I'll give it to Stephen. Thank you for the second. All those in favor to open the floor for discussion, say aye.
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 I,
Okay, any opposed? Okay, so the floor is open for the public for discussion. Again, we'll close it if we need to, but we tend to just kind of leave it open for the whole meeting. We'll close it at the end of the meeting. All right, let's jump into item 1. This is appeal 22-005. Matt Whiff on behalf of Wisconsin Humane Society. Paul, why don't you go ahead and tee it up? Is it for property 1830 Radisson Street, I believe?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. 1830 Radisson is the location of the Humane Society property. I got the map up here. It's south of I-43, part of a business park district. The Humane Society's been there about 25 years or so. The request has to do with the temporary use. They've utilized a temporary trailer for the storage of cats in the past, and basically through the code, 90 days is the maximum for a temporary use. There is an extension of 90 days up for a total of 180 days, which we can do administratively. However, the applicant's asking for a period of, I think, up to about 12 months or more, which simply exceeds the limitation that staff can approve.
Great. Did everybody on the board have a chance to take a peek at this? Or any informational items before we get to the testimony of the individual with the appeal? Okay, let's go ahead. Is it Matt who is on the call? Hey, Matt. I see you in the middle of my screen. I'm not sure where you land with others, but thanks for being here. Why don't you go ahead and walk us through kind of the need, and you know, we'll listen to the testimony. We'll listen if there's anybody else opposed, and we'll have some discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you for that introduction and for helping navigate this process. Deeply appreciated. My name is Matt Whitty. I'm Vice President of Operations for the Wisconsin Humane Society. To put it out, the trailer that we've had on site there since we merged with the former Bay Area Humane Society in 2018, without that trailer, we simply wouldn't have the space to provide cats with a good quality of humane care. Shelter animal medicine has standards of patient care, just like human medicine does. One of those standards of care is the amount of space you provide per animal, and the building is simply not large enough to provide enough kennels of proper size for the volume of cats we receive. We receive typically about 2,000 cats per year from the community, and those cats need space to behave like cats behave. The failure to provide cats with the adequate space is bad for all parties. It's bad for cats. It makes just like humans, we don't like to be in crowded spaces, right? Yeah, we don't like to share bedrooms if we don't have to. We don't like to share hotel rooms if we don't have to. Tammy, I heard you say you were coming from a hotel. When just like humans, when we have to compromise on our standards of care, we risk getting sick. If we put cats in compromised and crowded conditions, we make healthy cats sick. We make sick cats sicker. We believe that the animals of Green Bay and the people of them deserve an environment capable of providing adequate space for cats. Is what this trailer is really about. I do want to highlight it is not our permanent plan. While it's been there for the past several years, and we need it ideally for a little bit longer, our permanent plan is to operate permanent space that is capable of housing the number of properly sized units for cats. And that would take the shape in one of two ways. It would mean we would expand at the current property. We would perhaps build an entire new shelter somewhere in Green Bay, or we would build or renovate complementary space and operate 2 locations. That third one, in my personal opinion, is less likely than the other 2, just because of the inefficiency that goes with operating 2 spaces. But we do not intend to stay in this zone any longer than is absolutely necessary. To give the board a little bit of context, we operate the county shelter in Racine County as well, and this is largely the same procedure the same process we used until we built a new shelter in Racine County as well. So when we merged with former operators of the Racine shelter back in 2013, we placed a trailer of exactly the same proportions and features as the trailer in our shelter in Green Bay until we could build a new shelter in Racine. That process, and we opened right before COVID in February of 2020, our new shelter in Racine. So we, again, intend for this to be just sort of our bridge can operate the permanent facility amount of space necessary to lodge number of lodging units for cats. Like so many operators, COVID set us back a little bit in our plans, and we didn't move forward as much on any one of those 3 plans I mentioned in the time during COVID. But now that things have stabilized there, we are it is our intent to move as quickly as possible with one of those 3 options and keep this board apprised of our progress there in not only the future we may need in the time it takes to build or renovate that additional space.
Okay.
And thank you to Alderperson LaFave for coming out and seeing the trailer. I appreciate that deeply as well.
Good. On that note, we'll jump to Alder LaFave to jump in.
Thank you. Yes, I did have a really nice tour, and I understand the need for the trailer. One thing that Matt didn't mention, and I know this is true with cats than with dogs. Cats more relate to place, to their home, than they do to the people. Anybody who moves so many times, and we were there when they were moving, I think like their 5th time, and this cat was going crazy because they knew what was going on with the packing and everything. And I mean, the cat was just going crazy. So these cats are already stressed when they show up. So I think this is really good. I mean, the way they have it set up, I saw it. I'm a cat owner. I've gotten cats from the Humane Society, and I understand right why they have this trailer there, and I appreciate, and I think then too, when they adopt these cats out, there's a better outcome for these animals with the people. So I'm definitely in support of it. I've had nobody contact me, on this, saying that no, but I think it's a real good setup that they have. And as Matt had mentioned, this is not a permanent thing. This is just to a bridge until they can build an addition or maybe a new place.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Matt, was there anything else that you needed to add before we kind of open it up to the potential public discourse?
Not particularly, no, but thank you, Alderperson LaFave, for mentioning that. You're absolutely right. Cats are even more sensitive to the environmental stressors of shelters than dogs. Not that I wouldn't be making the same appeal if it was dogs, but cats, even more than dogs, need all the accommodations they can be provided in a shelter. And I saw as the call was coming together, people mentioning their cats and their dogs, and I saw some dogs in some videos. And so for any of you who are cat owners out there, I'm sure you recognize that cats' changes to their environment are incredibly stressful to them. And one way we can buffer that is by giving them at least minimally the space that all good shelter medicine articulates as the minimum they need.
Okay, great. Thank you guys. Folks. I appreciate it. All right, is there anyone else there's a lot of people here, so I'll give it a minute. If you are, whether it's this one or the next one, obviously going through Zoom, there's a technical process. So the big thing, if you were speaking for or against, we'll do our best to see who it is on the screen here in the grid. Just be patient, but make sure you unmute. So we know. But is there anybody else that is on this call that wanted to speak for or potentially against and give testimony in that way? Okay, I think that's a good enough amount of time for people to unmute. Give it another second here because I know technically it's sometimes challenging. Okay, I think we're good to move forward with some discussion from the board. One more piece of context, because again, I know I always like to, there's a lot of public on more than normal on this call, just to give context to everybody. So the Board of Appeals is it's appointed, we're public, we're not paid, it's not an elected thing. We volunteer our time, and it works pretty much like a court, if you will. There's testimony for, there's testimony against. We have the rules in which we are engaged on. It really comes down to that 3-step test that's in the application process. And then we vote, and a simple majority here is in either way. So if it's a motion to deny, we just need 3 out of 5 votes. If it's a motion to approve, we need 3 out of 5. So sometimes you might have a person on the board that votes no. At the end of the day, the votes matter. You don't need like a super, you need 3 out of 2, 3 out of 5. Correct, Paul? Right. Okay. So just so context for everybody on this call and how this process works, let's jump into discussion. Is there any discussion? Jim? questions that you might have for the applicant?
Yeah, I do, Tommy. I have a question for Paul, and it's just a clarification because maybe I'm the confused one. Are we approving another 90 days, another 120? Approving if we do approve this variance request?
I think that's something the applicant should clarify. I think they mentioned 12 months in their application. I'm simply pointing out it's beyond 180 days, which we can't as staff approve.
Thanks. Thank you, Paul. My application did request 12 months because frankly, that's what I perceived the maximum amount I could apply for was per something I was reading in the in an ordinance. I might have been mistaken on that. If it can be longer, that of course would be appreciated since the time it takes to build, renovate, or expand and evaluate all our options there will probably be more than a year. I just didn't ask for more than a year because I perceived the year was the maximum available to me.
Question on that, Paul. Let's say we decide to do 12 months, would they have to reapply for the variance, or is that just something we can procedurally just set in as a check-in a year in? Say, hey, listen, you guys got to come back, testify on where you're at, rather than having them go through the application process again?
I think you can stipulate any sort of time frame you'd like. I would not require them to reapply per se and pay a fee. I think the board could simply stipulate that you want to revisit this in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. That's a time frame you have to consider.
Copy that. Thank you. Noel, you got your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Another question for Mr. Newmeyer. Just Paula, this is something in terms of the use itself, the placement and all those things. This is all acceptable, is it not? There's just it's time bound, and the applicant needs more time than the code allows.
Right. Usually you talk in feet, and this time you're talking kind of in days, I guess. So yeah, I mean this has been done in the past. It is acceptable, but we've have newer temporary use requirements, and basically the applicant's reapplying for that, and they're not complying with the current standards. So they're exceeding that standard, or they'd like to exceed that standard, and really the board has to make that variance possible.
And just to reiterate, it sounds sounds like you're actively working as an organization to find a permanent solution that doesn't involve a trailer. Right. Okay.
We know that's not a good long-term solution at all. Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
I mean, there's a couple of things here. I mean, one, that it's just a time issue, and there's been organizational change and things like that require some work. I'm certainly familiar with that. I'm inclined to grant something, maybe with some check-ins between the petitioner and staff to say, okay, this can continue if you're making some reasonable progress towards your goals of getting beyond this. And I will approve as much as 18 months, I guess, in terms of this with us, at least every 90 days or 6 months or something like that the shelter would check in with staff and kind of give them an update and just empower staff to say, no, we're cutting this off because you haven't done anything, and this is just going to be dragging on forever. But I don't know that we need to come back and hear that, if it's not working right. Does that sound reasonable for us to do, fellow commissioners? I'm
okay with that, Noel.
Yeah. Again, just looking at our agenda, and I think we're going to be hearing from a lot of folks tonight. I don't want to just dispense with this, but lives are at stake in a sense, and it's something that physically is okay. It's just a matter of the timing here. I think that's a little different because we're not creating something that's going to be a structure in perpetuity that's going to have to be dealt with by future owners or the neighbors or whatever like that. So I would be okay with looking at something, and I'll move that we allow the temporary shelter for a period of up to 18 months, subject to the petitioner checking in with staff, say every 6 months, and apprising them of progress and ending the need for that, and that if progress made, staff can terminate the extension.
I'll second.
Thanks, Don. All right, so we have a motion on the floor basically to approve for 18 months with 6 month check-ins. So it'd be 3 check-ins at the end, 18 months. If no progress is made, they come back to the board, if I'm understanding correctly. And in that process, the city has the opportunity to kind of like, in those check-ins, to speed things up, right? Is that a fair assumption? Or like,
Yeah, it kind of keeps their feet to the fire, if you will, in terms of not just
And
like for 18 months and then going, oh, now we got to think of something, right?
and I think what you came up with is very reasonable. I'm also in favor. So is there any other discussion before we take a vote by the other two members? Okay, for the sake of time, I do agree. Let's go ahead and take a vote here. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so 5-0. So again, those that are on the call and those that just voted, you can, yep, you're welcome. You feel free to stay on the call if you want. It can be fun, or you're more than welcome to hang up. And all you need to do is touch base with Paul. Thank you, Alder person Lefebvre. I know you got to go. Oh, you have your hand raised. I thought you were waving. Okay.
No, I will be waving. I will have to go, but I just wanted to mention, I don't know if anybody knows that I am retiring as a city alder. So this is one of my last meetings. So
Oh,
I appreciate it, everything. And unfortunately, I can't run again because my husband got ill. But anyway, so yeah, so I appreciate everything. And
thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Any alder that ever shows up to the Board of Appeals and any engagement we get here. So thank you, and good luck to whatever the next chapter is for you.
okay, thank you too. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. So again, Paul, again, stay on the call. If not,
Bye.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
let's jump on to number 2. So appeal number 22-006, John Leroy of Mount Associates on behalf of Chad Roffers. I believe I'm saying that right. This is a property at 220 North Taylor Street, question mark, because it also has 1882 Gary Lane. I do know that there was some added emails or conversations with this. So let's just make sure we kind of go through this correctly here. Paul, let's go ahead and tee it off here.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It has 2 addresses, I guess. More recently, it's been 220 North Taylor. I think formerly it was 1882 Gary. So this is on the west side of Green Bay. It's the northeast corner of North Taylor and Gary. Zone low density residential. The applicant's proposing to build a single family home here. The backstory with the lots are that I think there were homes on these lots at one point, but they were acquired by the DOT for an improvement at the roundabout at Shawano and Taylor. So these are kind of remnant pieces that were acquired by the property owner. They now plan to construct a single family home. Here is a site plan showing the layout along Gary. There is a sister development to the north. However, that's code compliant from what staff can see. The main focus has been on this property here at 220 North Taylor. The issue, it's a very narrow lot. It may appear wide, a lot of green space, but the lot itself is very narrow. And the request is for a reduction in the setback to about 4.5 feet on the side yard setback. Typically, the proposal is for a 2-story structure, so that needs to have an 8-foot setback. So they're hoping to reduce that to 4.5. The other issue is the interpretation here by myself as a zoning administrator. The graphic here kind of shows a more modern type design, a 2-story home. When you look at homes in the block, they were probably built in the late 60s, early 70s, ranch style homes. The home that's proposed doesn't really meet that standard. That's again, that is an interpretation that I've made, and I guess it can now be left to the board to make that interpretation or concur with my interpretation as well. We did receive a few emails. I did forward those to board members, and Alder Sawyer's also here. He had sent an email with his concerns.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Before we get into public discourse here, let's go ahead and at least hear from the, before we get into that, is there any questions, informational, so we can listen correctly to the applicant by any of the members? Okay, not hearing any there. So let's go ahead. Who is here to present this case tonight? I don't see
Jim Wolf. Tommy, it looks like Jim Wolf.
Oh, okay, thank
Behind the
you,
razor
Jim.
team.
Thank you, Jim. Sorry, I was missing him on a different page. Okay, go ahead, Jim. You can present your case.
John unfortunately is not able to make it, so I had to kind of fill in on short notice, and I'll do my best to answer all the questions. The biggest constraint to this lot was when the DOT owned it, they allowed the installation of this power lines to be little extra distance off the right of way. And being that the power going through those power poles to the hospital or the clinic that's right there is a little bit higher grade. They're holding it as to a 15-foot easement on one side so that we stay away from those structures. You have to have 10-foot clear on the wires. We did inquire about moving them. The initial quotes from I believe it's Wind Energies was between 50 and 80K. That is not feasible considering the investment that's already into the lots and the proposed investment that's already in it. We did reduce the width of the house to try and conform better with the standards. We went down as narrow as we could, so we can't narrow the house up anymore. The rendering is a really nice rendering, and hopefully everything still flows through that way. We do plan on taking the stairs and flopping them from the right side as you're facing the garage to the left side, so there's not stairs in that 4.5 foot area. And it's just the lot is so narrow, setbacks are in. It's hard to see another style home here to make it fit properly.
Okay. I don't know if it was because I know I'm in a hotel room, but I got 99% of that. I'm not sure if anybody else on the call was having some issues, but it was a little choppy. Is there any questions that we had for the applicant? I think I got the gist of it, but I know it was a little choppy there. Are we all good to, or any questions for the applicant?
I do have one question. If I read the packet correctly, you have 2 designs for this lot depending on the decision made for this board?
I'll have to read his packet here down a little further. I was only aware of the one. The one is a rendering, and then there was a footprint. The foundation plan essentially was the second page to that. So I don't believe there was 2 renderings for it.
Okay, I thought the alternative was a single-story structure with a single-car garage that was put on the original application. Was I wrong about that, Paul?
I would have to look myself. I don't recall that. I can take a look.
Yeah, I think, Steve, they may have been alluding to a possibility and explaining why they felt that it was inadequate to pursue that possibility. I don't recall it being another plan either.
Okay.
And Paul, I think this is relevant. To be clear, there's one deviation from a variance that we're considering. Is that correct?
Right. So there's condition for the side yard, the interior side yard setback. The second issue is, I guess, my interpretation, which I guess kind of speaks for itself. I don't believe that structure fits the character of the neighborhood based on some of the standards in the code, but I guess that can be appealed to the board. My interpretation can be appealed to the board.
Okay.
And that's just to maybe flesh that a little bit more, Paul. Staff has the right to determine before issuing permits that a building being proposed has to fit in with the character of adjacent homes if it's another home, and if they feel that it's outside of that, you've got some leeway in saying no, that doesn't fit. Just like if somebody was trying to put a ranch amongst a bunch of foursquares or Dutch colonials or something like that, you'd say, this really doesn't go with the neighbors, right? We'd like to see a looking plan, and you've got leeway to kind of hold that process up based on your professional judgment on that.
Right. There are some standards that are, I want to say abstract, but a little loose in the code. Basically, the placement of the home, the roof lines, if a garage is attached or detached. And it was just my opinion that this did not fit the character of the existing homes in the block.
Okay, cool. All right. If the setback, just to be clear, because I'm assuming there's going to be some discussion here. If the setback was in line, would this house be able to be built there, or you would still have oversight on the type of house? Just to be clear.
I think the general architectural appearance of the home, staff has some flexibility to weigh in on that, yes.
Copy that. Okay. Is there, let's get the alder person able to speak first. That way, if they have a double book, they can go somewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, thank you, Chair.
Of course.
Actually, my other agenda item is on my iPhone right now, so I'm listening with 4 sets of ears, or 2 sets, 2 whatever. You know, I've been accused of being able to multitask, but not always. So anyway, I will state that again. Thank you, and pardon me if I seem a little distracted, but I'm trying to do 2 things here.
Would it be better for you to hear from? Would it be better for you to hear from the public?
I'm just wondering. You know, you could possibly open the floor up. You know, if you'd like to go that route, and then just maybe talk to Mr. Van Remortel. Initially, you could talk to him. I will just state that I met with him on March 16th. He got a letter from the city talking about the variance, and he was a little concerned. He seemed he got it a little bit later than normal. I was not made aware of it either. I had to call the city to get the information. So that's kind of where we started. So we felt like we were behind the 8 ball a little bit. So with that being said, I would suggest opening the floor, and I'll try to chime in where I can.
Great. Okay. Thanks. All right. So I'm not sure. There's a lot of people here, and I'm not sure for which ones. But if there's a lot of people here for this, because we have gotten some emails and such, we'll do our best to get to everyone. If you are here to speak for or against, it doesn't matter. It's for per your screen. Those that have a screen, just raise your hand for me so I can see visually.
Or Tommy, ask them to use the reaction button that says raise hand on Zoom. So, you know, it looks like this. It puts your hand up on the corner of your screen. So you can actually raise.
Even better, Noel.
Do that.
There you go. So on the bottom part of your screen, hopefully or somewhere, there's a reaction button. It allows you to raise your hand virtually. That way you can see it. I see a gentleman named Doug who has done that. Thank you, Doug. Well, since you're there first, let's jump in, Doug. And just do me a favor, when you come, state your name and your address for the record. So we have that. I forgot to do that on the last one. I don't know if there's anybody there, so it's fine. Name and address, and then start by saying, hey, I'm for, or I'm speaking against, and that way we can kind of hear and have that application in the testimony. All right, Mr. Van Doug. Thanks, Doug. Doug Van Remortel, I think it's how you say it. Blue chair, glasses.
Looks like he's frozen up.
Oh, he might be frozen. Okay. Is there anyone else here that is here to speak for or against this? I don't see.
Chair, is he in? Is he coming in? Because he said he might have trouble getting in. If not, I could speak for him too.
Yeah, Tommy, you're muted as well.
Yeah. All right, let's try Doug. Doug, one more time. Are you frozen? Yeah, he's frozen. Okay, let's just hear from let's hear from the alder person.
All right. Thanks again. I did meet with Doug Van Remortel. He lives at 1876 Gary Lane. And when I went out to his house, first of all, I was a little surprised when I saw the development on the single family home to the north at 1881 Dousman. If you folks have driven that area, it's very close to where I live. It's a very busy area. You've got a roundabout there, you've got a hospital, you've got Fleet Farm, you got Myers, you got 2 gas stations. It's one of the busiest roundabouts in the county. So with that being said, some years ago, the state came in, I believe, and did some work on Taylor Street, some utility work, and there was some berms put up and some trees and, just setback type of matter to kind of seal that area a little bit from the commercial area that is so prevalent in that region. So if you look at 2010 aerial photos, there were 2 houses already on those 2 properties. Over time, they were raised so that the road could be widened and different setback work along with trees and berms were put in. So if you walk by there, my smell test just didn't work well. Well, it maybe did work well when I walked by there and looked at both lots. And the one lot already has the footings put in to the north, so that's already a done deal. But for me, on the south, I looked at it and it was like, where's the room here? I know it's like 45 feet, maybe 50 feet, maybe even a little less. But the fact of the matter is that two buildings were taken down, so these berm areas could be taken care of. And now the fact is that they want to put in another house here. They're looking for 4.5 feet, and that's a concern. I personally am against it. I think there's enough concentration of development in that area. That area, the folks have they dealt with the hospital coming in and all sorts of activity with that. So it's a long story of that neighborhood. And just for that fact, I would say that, we need to really look at the landowner or the homeowner here and listen to what they have to say about it. Sadly, I don't know if he can come in. Noel, you there?
Yeah, a question for Alderman Stoyer.
Yes.
Mark, what was your thought about that house design?
I don't think the design was all that bad. I'm looking at it strictly from the setback. Just the actual physical placement of that building on that lot. Very narrow. I mean, the one to the north is right on. I mean, there was no room for error whatsoever. And I talked to Matt Bablich, the city inspector, and he assured me that everything worked out for that property. But the area to the south with that setback, it's going to be a problem. As far as the design, I had no distinct problem with it personally. I mean, what's your take on it? Do you feel it's a nice design?
Well, it looks a little different than I'm accustomed to. But
yeah, I was a cartographer, I mean, although I do like buildings too. So I don't know.
Mr. Chair, maybe we could suggest that Mr. Van Remortel try to use the chat at least to see if he can enter some comment into the record for the meeting, if he's able to chat, even if he can't get his connection to work for the video and audio.
Yeah, I was going to come back to him in a second here, but that's a good suggestion. In the meantime, is that
maybe it's not, because I don't think we can chat in these meetings. So
is there a way to move, if you could come back in the meeting, could you just delay this point till he comes in and then just move on to your agenda? Because I'm in the middle of my other agenda too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you should try and disconnect and reconnect and see if he gets a better connection on the next.
That's just my suggestion.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a second here. I just want to, before we move forward, I do want to put on the record, I'm going to read an email we received, so it's on the record. Is that a fair process thing to do, Paul, is to read the emails so it's on the record, or can we just say, hey, we received an email?
I think it's certainly your choice, depending on how much time we have. You can read them in, otherwise you can just put them in the record and we'll put it with the minutes.
Okay, I think it's short enough just so the folks on the call can hear. We received an email from Elisa Williamson. I don't have an address, but it just states, I do not think the variance should be passed, mostly because this lot was sold knowing that nothing could be built on it that would meet the city's building code. The building style and limited lot space will make this building look like it's shoved into a small space, further detract from the overall neighborhood aesthetics, given it doesn't remotely even begin to flow into the neighborhood style of homes. And then signed by Lisa Williamson. So just so those that are on the phone know that was submitted through email.
Chair Lisa
yes.
Williamson lives at 1875 Gary Street.
Thank you for that, putting that on the
Okay.
record. Okay, thank you. Before we go back to Mr. Van Remortel, I just want to make sure there is a lot of people on the call. There is no one else on this call that is speaking for or against this variance.
All right.
Rob, I see you unmuted. Was that, nope, okay, you're just, okay, great. All right, let's try one more time with Doug, because maybe he took his video off and his audio might work. Let's just try one more time. Mr. Van Remortel, are you there? Okay, I'll leave this up to the group here. We've heard some of the comments from the alderperson Stoyer. Since they had a conversation, we can either pause this and move it to the end of the meeting, or we can just move forward, assuming that we heard some of the comments from the alderperson since they were having the conversation. But I'll leave it up to you guys. What are you feeling?
We can.
I have a suggestion, Chair. I would suggest that once my agenda item on this other meeting is over with, which is hopefully shortly, I will contact Mr. Van Remortel and see if he could call in, and I'll give him the phone number to call in, and he could speak via phone.
Mr. Wolf, are you okay with us pausing this one and moving forward, that we can hear testimony from the other gentleman who's trying to call in? Okay, we don't need to take a vote on that, do we? Okay, so let's just go ahead and pause this, gentlemen. We'll go to item 3, and then we'll circle back to it later in the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Stoyer, for the suggestion. And then maybe you can contact him and see if you can call in, or you can try to log in again. All right, so let's move on to item number 3, which I believe is for Rob. Appeal number 22-08 is what's on the application. I don't think that's right. But the third item on the agenda, let's go ahead and tee that one up, Paul.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for variance at 1312 Beamer Street, west side of Green Bay, just off of South Ridge. The home is highlighted here with the star, zone low density residential. They have plans to expand the garage. Right now, there's a single stall garage here. They're looking to expand to a 3-stall garage. There's 2 issues here. One is the rear yard setback. They're hoping to match kind of the footprint of the principal home here. The setback is 25 feet. There'll be something less than that. And in this case, with the garage addition, they're going to exceed the footprint of the home itself, and that also require a variance.
And I misspoke. This is appeal number 22-007 for the address that you spoke. So not Mr. Jadodensky, but Mr. Vanden Mullen. All right. Any questions, informational from the board members before we hear from the public for the applicant? Okay, we'll go Tom, then Noel. Oh, I thought I heard Tom. Never mind. Noel, go ahead.
Is this a detached or attached that they're talking about for the new garage?
It is attached. Let me just bring up the site plan. Beamer is here towards the bottom of the screen. Here's the home, and here's the expansion, the garage expansion here with an expanded driveway.
And on that there, the dotted line is the driveway line, or is the green line?
Correct. Correct.
The dotted line.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and go to the applicant and let's hear from them. So that would be, I think, Mr. Vanden Mullen.
Yes. I'm Zach Vanden Mullen. I own 1312 Beamer Street.
Okay, just walk us through kind of we want to hear your testimony as to why you want to do this, the 3-step test, does it have a public, does it follow the, you can't build because of the location? Does it harm the public good? Those kind of different things.
This is Randy Vandermeulen. I'm Zachary's dad. I'm the person that's going to be building it. So he wanted a bigger garage. He wants to get married, and they're going to have 2 cars, and he just wants more room to put his stuff in instead of leaving it outside.
Okay. Is there any questions for the applicant before we see if there's any public discourse on this?
The problem is the depth. I can't meet the 25-foot setback. So our new garage will have a 15-foot 3-inch from the lot line. And the reason we went over on the square feet is that we wanted an 18-foot garage door so we can drive the cars in all straight instead of putting one at an angle to get out of the car. So that's how we come up with the length of the garage. No, that's it, I guess. And our house will look more modern, you know. And that's it.
Okay. Any from the board members, any questions for the applicant?
I had a quick question, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Will you be tearing down the existing attached garage, or you're going to be building around it?
No, we'll be tearing it down.
Don, Tom, anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chair. I'm confused again easily. I see, if I interpret the drawing right, that the applicant is wishing to skew his driveway around a tree. But to get back to maybe perhaps to Tommy's original question, what is the difference between the green lines going out to the street and the dotted line, which appears to dodge a tree? I guess maybe I'll let the applicant explain first, and I've got another question for Paul.
The red dotted line is just until we get the tree removed. And the solid green line is going to be the finished driveway.
Ah, okay.
And the yellow line is the existing driveway. I talked to the forester, and they were going to wait till all the leaves come on the trees and to see what they can do with the tree.
All right. So then there's 2 variances here. There's the rear setback, which was violated by the initial construction. It's a kind of a pre-existing violation. And then Paul, could you explain again what's wrong with the driveway? It must flare too much, or it's too wide, or whatever.
I don't think there's a problem with the driveway necessarily. It's more about the size of the attached garage being larger than the principal dwelling.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. I have a question for the applicant. It says on the application, list any alternatives. That's a big thing for the testimony for me is, problem solving. Looking at the situation saying, is there a way to solve what it is we'd like to do without asking for all the different variances? So have there been other alternatives that have been explored? Because on the application, it just says none. So I want to kind of give the applicant an opportunity to clarify that or explain potentially alternatives that might work that would fit within the current code?
Okay, I can shorten it up 2 feet, and then it'll bring the square footage down to only 35 square feet more than a house. The reason that we kept it the way it is so we had 2 feet in between the doors for to put our brick on, instead of a little smaller area. But we can go down 2 more feet, you know, so that'd be 56 square feet or 53 square feet less. So it would match more to the house.
And is there any opportunity within your proposed design to bring it down the 87, I think it's 87 if my math's good. I'm doing it quickly, but 87 square feet. So it's not, that variance is not needed. Is there an alternative that is there?
I guess we could get it down to 87, but we might have to eliminate the service door and put it on the side. But then he's going to have to walk through his whole garage to get into the house.
Okay, that was my question. Any other questions for the applicant from the, before we hear if anybody from the public wants to say anything? Okay, is there anybody on the call that is currently wanting to speak for or against this variance? If you are, go ahead and raise your hand with that reaction button down there. Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and do some discussion. Gentlemen, I'll leave that to you, and then we'll see when we're ready for a vote. Yes, Noel, go ahead and go first.
I look at this one and I look at the nature of that lot, the structure of the lot, the size of the lot, the use that they're proposing. This isn't one of those, shoehorning it to the maximum, development of this thing, that the placement of the current house allows for development to the west of that primary structure. I look at this and think it's big enough for it. It holds it. The current garage is already non-conforming at whatever, 19 feet back. They're asking for like 15 foot 3 inches. And we're talking about 87 square feet difference between the size of the garage and the size of the house. And I get that, but at less than 100 square feet, it's kind of like, you win both showcases in the showcase showdown. I mean, we're talking about a 9 by 9, area if we made it square, right? I mean, it's just not that significant. I appreciate that the applicant has asked for, has looked at things like, hey, I could, have less than 2 feet between the garage doors, but I want to put some brick there so it looks a little bit better, or I could get rid of the service door. And just, word to the petitioners and anybody else watching the broadcast here. I mean, certainly if you think of it, if you thought of some alternatives, please put it down in those applications. Don't just write none. We really want to see that if there is something you're asking us essentially to kind of set aside the rules and make your property work the way you want it to work, we need to know that you've looked at the possibilities and explored alternatives, which it sounds like you had. You just didn't tell us that until we asked you tonight, and appreciate our chairman asking those questions. But for me, looking at this, it seems like a gimme. It doesn't seem like something that I think we ought to be splitting hairs over. Oh, the garage was not right before, let's make them get it right now. Well, if they have a 25 foot rear setback for that garage, well, then the garage is going to be sticking out 10 feet closer to the street than it is, and that's not going to look right either. So I guess I'm inclined to grant the variance as requested, and not split hairs over small differences in measurement.
Okay, thanks, Noel. Stephen, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yep. I drove by this property and took a look, and right now I agree with the applicant that his garage situation, especially if he wants to have a family there, is pretty inadequate. It's an older home in an older neighborhood, probably built in the 50s. And looking from what it is, I mean, it is close to the neighbor's yard in the back, but the whole house is that way. That nothing about this will change that. Looking at it, I tend to agree with Noel that this is. He's got the space to do it, and I don't think it will greatly change. It shows progress in the neighborhood and keeping the houses up. And clearly the homeowners already been doing some work on the house as I drove by, so that was a good thing to see. I don't think this would be, in my opinion, I don't see this being a big deal for a variance.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Tom or Don, any comments?
I'll just say that Steve and Noel said it perfectly. I agree with what they both said. I'm in favor of this as it's presented.
Thanks, Don.
I am also in favor of it.
Okay, and real quick before we vote, thank you, Noel, because that's where I was angling, and I appreciate you catching that up, because this is a good opportunity to market to a lot of different people about this process. And we do love to see the problem-solving effort, right? All of those different variances of, well, this is why, and this is what we're trying to do, and any part of that story is critical to help us, like Noel said perfectly, ignore the rules so that this can move forward, and so we can all be on the same page, working together. So thank you for calling that out, Noel, and that is why I brought that up. So thank you. Let's go ahead and take a vote. I think we're gonna go through this here. So I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the variance as requested.
Thanks, Noel.
I'll second.
Thanks, Tom. All right, so I have a motion to approve from Mr. Halverson and a second by Mr. Hoy. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 5-0. All right, so applicant, just go ahead and follow up with Paul. Again, feel free to stay on the call if you'd like, or you can go and just follow up with Paul for next steps at the city. All right, I do see that we have Doug on the call. Mr. Stoyer or Alder Stoyer, are you still in a place where you want a little time? He's busy in his other thing. Okay, let's move on to option number 4 on the agenda. Let me pull that up. I got like 3 different screens going on. All right, so this is appeal 22-008 of lock construction on the property at 425 Manchester Drive. Paul, you want to tee that up for us? If you're still here. Good.
Yep, still here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Request for variance 425 Manchester, not far from Taylor Street here on the west side. This is a property where a permit was not pulled for a driveway widening. Basically, the widening does not meet the current standards found in the zoning code. And that's the reason why the applicant is before you for the appeal. This is kind of how the driveway appeared a couple of years ago, and then there's some photos that were provided in the packet that show some of the construction that occurred. Some of the tapers are not correct. The width of the drive is not correct, and it doesn't lead to a parking spot behind the setback. So those are some of the considerations for variance tonight.
Okay, anybody on the board have questions for Paul on this? I always like to clarify for me, because I'm listening to all the information, I'm looking at documents, and I always like to be really clear. So the specific variance on this is the driveway is too wide currently.
Well, I think there's a couple things, right? So they're kind of grouped together in the off-street parking standards for single-family homes. So it has to do with width and taper. It's not so much a side yard setback. I believe that's compliant. I think they have about 3 feet of setback, but that space encroaches beyond the garage door opening, and it doesn't lead to a parking spot behind the setback. So in essence, it's parking in the front setback. So they're kind of all wrapped together in 3 situations, so to speak.
Okay, good. The application just has 1 variance on there, but depending on how this goes, it might lead to a different variance request, correct?
Well, I think they're all covered under the same section of code. I'm just kind of pointing out some of the deficiencies, I guess, that are.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for Thank you for that. All right, any other questions for Paul before we get into the applicant? Okay, all right, we'll go ahead and hear from the applicant.
Okay, is the homeowner Joel on there yet?
Yeah.
Can he speak? Started out, so he's got more of the reasons he needs what he's applying for.
Is it Annie's iPhone? Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, go ahead and you can go ahead and unmute and speak if you'd like.
Sir, you
I
need
think
to
you're. I
unmute.
think you're muted.
The reason for the expansion of the driveway was to, one, be city compliant with the seasonal storage of a travel trailer. And there's not enough space between the setback on the side, between the property line and the physical house itself. And the expansion to the other side was to allow pedestrian traffic when the trailer and vehicle are actually in the driveway.
Okay. I'm just gonna say Rob because I'm horrible with last names.
Sure,
Just forgive me. Everybody on the call. Rob, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I guess to just in the neighborhood, if you look around and driving through the Green Bay area, you see a lot of similar driveways. This house is built probably back before the 70s. They usually had one vehicle. They have two vehicles, a camper. They have children that are going to grow up, you know, to be driving if they still stay in that house. The driveway was narrow. It was small. It just wasn't feasible for what they need. And they're trying to improve the area, make it more pleasant than parking on the grass, making mud, putting patio pavers there. It grows up weeds. We all seen it down the road in houses that try to make it look presentable, but down the road, concrete holds up. It looks good. It's done with some taste, I guess. And that's why we're asking. There was a few old misunderstandings when we started. We had a set up, it was inspected. It was told we could pour it. Come find out, they came back, said it wasn't up to the ordinances. And so there was miscommunications or misunderstandings on the process of how we did it. So with that, I apologize. I got to take some responsibility for that because I didn't inform myself enough on, I let someone else tell me it was okay without making sure for myself. So some of that's on me, on the reason we poured it ahead of time. But I do have the text message that was inspected, raise it, and you can pour it. So that's where we had a little confusion, I guess. with some of
Okay.
this.
Thanks for that clarification. And also, you know, it stinks, these processes, especially when projects have started. It's a frustrating process,
Yeah.
and hopefully we can discuss some of this, but I appreciate anybody willing to take any ownership in any type of miscommunication, because it happens, right? So
Yeah.
thank you for that. Anybody else on the call that wants to speak for or against this? If you are, I see a raised hand. If you are, please do what Mr. Kennard, Travis, I'm going to say Travis did. I'm horrible with last names, everybody. I'm so sorry. Is there anybody else? Just go ahead and click the reaction button and click raise hand. I will start with Travis, if that's okay. And again, state your name, address, and whether or not you're for or against, and then your testimony.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for your time. My name is Travis Connard. I'm at 429 Manchester Drive. If you saw some of the photos shown earlier, my bedroom window is directly outside this driveway extension. So that's really the reason why I'm speaking against the variance. I've lived in this neighborhood, in this house, for 12 years. It's a great neighborhood, great people. The only really issues I've ever had is a similar issue to the other side of me with that neighbor. I was young and naive, and they asked to extend their driveway to the property line. And it's something I've regretted ever since, because at that time, their thought process was that two teenage children that were going to start driving, they needed a little more space for parking. And I figured, yeah, that's reasonable. I'll do the neighborly thing. Well, soon enough, it turned into fishing boats right on the property line, motor homes right on the property line. And so it's just left, I feel like I'm being boxed in on both sides now. So with that one, I was able to talk to the neighbors. We were able to kind of come up with some reasonable accommodations where they park their very, very, very large motor home, at least on the other side of the driveway. It's still very frustrating, but they're within their rights as far as I understand. So nothing I can do there. Now on the other side, Joe moved in last year, parked his large camper on the lot line in the grass. Obviously understood that it upset me, and thankfully I want to commend Joe throughout all this. He's been neighborly. We've been able to, you know, be neighborly towards each other, so I really appreciate that. But at the end of the day, there's just a basic disagreement on what's appropriate for the little amount of space that we have between the two houses. Joe's spoken of wanting to park his camper there. That's been the plan all along. And I just, it's just right outside our bedroom window. We feel very boxed in, and, you know, it's too close. There's not enough room there. It's nothing personal against Joe. He's a great neighbor. I feel boxed in on both sides. And I'd rather not have a camper right outside my bedroom window for 6, 7, 8 months out of the year. So unfortunately, that is why I'm speaking against the variance. And I just want to clarify as well, when the contractor was there and they began digging, I did go over and ask, what is the code? How far can you come over? Have you looked into that? And I asked several times, and it was always just, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I could never get a straight answer as to what the actual issue was. And I said over and over, like, guys, I just want to get to the bottom of this, because I don't want to have to come back later after concrete is poured and have to make changes, because obviously that's not good for anybody. I brought over the ordinance. I looked it up online. I brought it over to both the contractor and Joe when they were digging, and showed them the exact ordinance, which states that it can't be poured past the driveway. I told them, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an engineer. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but I did everything I could to avoid the situation we're in right now. I just want to state that on the record. And that's pretty much what it boils down to. Again, thankful for Joe for being neighborly and keeping this calm and peaceful. I hope we're able to remain that way no matter what happens. But at the end of the day, it's just, I can't have that trailer right outside our bedroom window, especially, he's mentioned having family from out of town stay over in that camper. I'm sure they're nice people, but I don't want other people camping right outside in my front yard, essentially. It's just,
Somebody stayed in that trailer.
I'm not sure who that was. Let's wait until you're called upon to speak. I'm not sure if that was on mute or something, but
yeah.
Anything else, Travis, that you'd like to add?
No, I think that gets to the bottom of it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and thank you for the honesty. And again, those on the call, we all can appreciate, situations like this where there's fors and against, and the goal is that everybody stay civil and work through this, and we'll all do our best to listen to all parties and do our best to make a decision that works. So thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it, and I appreciate people staying neighborly in the midst of situations like this. So thank you for that. Real quick, before I go to Barry's iPad, they have their hand raised. I do have an email that was sent in for the record. This is from Mike Charles at 422 Manchester Drive. Paul, thank you for calling and getting back to me. I'd like to state that in regard to the variance request for 425 Manchester Drive, which is the one we're on, correct? Okay. I would be in favor of allowing the variance and have no problem with that. Please express my interest when this is brought up later today. And thank you again, from Mike Charles, again, 422 Manchester Drive. So that's on the record as well. Before I go to the next person raising their hand, is there any questions that anybody has at this point, or just keep going with testimony? Okay, let's go to Barry's iPad. Your hand is raised. Go ahead and state your name, address, and whether you're for or against the variance.
My name is Barry King. I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I don't know if you want my address or not. I'm Joe's stepfather.
We'll take the address for the record,
Okay,
real quickly.
It's 6245 State Highway M35, Gladstone, Michigan, 49837.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, as I stated, I'm Joe's stepfather, and I've been down there. Everything looks real good as far as the cement work that was done that I can see. I know there was a few problems with getting the permitting done correctly, but that kind of falls on the city because they didn't follow through and do their things right. And as far as the neighbor, you know, you buy a house, and as long as they're within the property lines and that, they should be allowed to do whatever they want. If they want to park their trailer there, they should be allowed to do it. I mean, you can access the yards in the back there. And if you go down that street on both sides, they've got basically the same thing on, I think I noticed at least 5 or 6 homes where they've got the pad widened out up by the house for the driveways, and they've got campers parked on them. So, you know, if the guy doesn't like it outside, you know, if it was his living room window and his front window was blocked and stuff, I could see where he'd have a complaint, but this is a bedroom window. I don't see where there's a big problem. I mean, I don't stand in my bedroom and look out the window that much, so that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that testimony. Is there anyone else that is on this call that is speaking for or against this variance? Okay, I think that's a fair amount of time for the technology buffer there. All right, I will shoot it to you in the board here for some discussion, kind of feel this out and see where we're headed.
Yeah,
You're good, Noel. Go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Question for Paul. A couple of the speakers have mentioned permitting process and miscommunication and things like that. Can you please tell us from your understanding what happened vis-a-vis permitting and the pouring of this driveway?
I don't know if I have the full history. I think one of our building inspectors maybe have been on site. Looking at the records and Eclipse, there was something back from October of last year about a driveway replacement, but no permits were issued. There is a pending complaint on the property for the installation of the driveway without a permit.
Thank you.
Stephen, go ahead.
Question for you, Paul. You said that the the variance needed for the width of the driveway, that has to do with parking on the street there? Did I mishear that, or could you explain that?
Yeah, the width has to do with that, the opening of the driveway, or what we call the throat, at the right-of-way line. So not the curb line, not the street line, but the right-of-way line. Basically where a sidewalk would be present is where the opening would be like 25 feet to the maximum, and then it flares out to maybe say 30 feet. It's 2.5-foot tapers on either side to the curb line, and that's all missing in this case here.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of following on that, Paul, anytime there's work already done, you know, in a way, what we're considering is undoing work. Is there a way to undo portions of this where you can make this situation work, where they can still park, you know, have some room to put their camper that is still meeting code and following current property guidelines? Or is that it's the width of the driveway as it's currently designed, the whole thing has to come out?
Well, I guess that has to be decided, right? I mean, because there's not a permit on file, there's no plan to work off, right? So there's an opportunity here to go back to the drawing board see what's been improved, and I suppose things could be removed possibly. I mean, things could be saw cut, removed to be code compliant. I still think you're going to have an issue on the north property line where the driveway was expanded beyond the garage door opening, where it may or may not have encroached on the property line. Again, we don't have a good drawing that reflects that. Looking at certain pictures, it looks like it's pretty close to the property line, that there is really not much of a separation there. So again, without a good solid plan, it's difficult for us to say, but I'm sure, I mean, things could be corrected here potentially, but we'd need to work with the applicant to do that.
Yeah, I don't know if that matters to the, oh, go ahead, Rob.
On the property line, we did run a string. We found all the property line pins. We ran a string. We're about 3 foot, 1 or 2 inches off the property line on the driveway. So we did find the pins. We dug them up and we ran a line with the numbers we had from the design from you guys for the 79 feet or 125 feet in the front, whatever exactly the numbers were. I don't have it in front of me. I gave all the paperwork to you guys, but we found the pins and we ran a line and we measured off the line to get that.
And you're how far off the property line, do you believe?
Like 3 foot 1 inch or 3 foot 2 inches it is off the property line, the driveway.
Okay,
so we did find the.
Can everyone see the image of this?
Yep.
Yeah.
I would really seriously question that, but I mean, this looks like it's on or over the property line.
I would agree.
The owner, the home, when we found him, so he's also there as a witness to finding the pins.
Right, but just visually, it looks like it's over.
But like I said, we did dig them up and we ran a string line from end to end, and we did measure off the string line. So I'm just saying we did do that.
I think.
I see you, Travis. We'll get to you, Travis.
I might suggest to the board that that property be surveyed in.
Okay.
To verify.
Yeah, that's, I hear you, Paul. Travis, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess while we're talking on the property line, I'll start there. I have two things. Again, I'm not an expert or a surveyist or anything, but there was a pin at the curb and there's a pin at the back of the property line. And then there was a stake placed in between the two homes, essentially making a sort of triangle shape with the line, not a direct line, basically extending that lot line in a weird three-way shape. It wasn't a straight line, and I have photos of that if we need them.
Okay, thank you.
I guess another thing, if you don't mind, I'm sorry. I guess from the very beginning, I've been trying to get clarification. I've spoken to a couple people in the city, and I've asked, like, because when I read the statute or the ordinance or zoning code, whatever we're going to call it, it states that the driveway can't go past the opening of the garage or the garage structure, I believe it states. Is that, I guess that seems to me what the limit would be. Then there's maybe some confusion about if it's 2.5 feet is the rule from the property line. You know, just how close the homes are. It's, you know, I'm looking out my window here, pretty much except for one driveway, they're all at the opening of the garage. So I guess I'm just looking for some clarification of what we're actually debating here. And if it does end up being the property line, I'd like to dispute the survey of the line.
Okay, Paul, do you want to clarify the driveway opening to the garage door thing real quick?
Right, so it's not permitted. It's an ordinance. We're talking about off-street parking requirements for single and two-family homes. It cannot go beyond the garage door opening unless it leads to a parking spot behind the setback. In this case, there's not enough room for a driveway spot, a legal spot behind the setback, just based on the width of the lots and the proximity to the homes. If you could extend that parking spot behind the setback, then you can be no closer than 2.5 feet to the lot line.
Got it. Okay, great. Does that add some clarification, Travis, for you?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that by the code, by the nature of the law, the driveway should not expand past the garage, correct?
Unless it leads to a parking spot. But
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay.
Now,
real quick-
you're certainly probably going to see other homes that, are like that, but again, that's the current code requirement. Other driveways may have been built under different codes. We're talking about current codes as they stand today.
Okay. So we don't get too long in the tooth on this. Go ahead quickly, Rob, and then we'll probably leave off any more discourse.
Right across the road from 425, which is Joe's property, they have a camper. It's almost the same driveway. So if he doesn't see any, you can look right across the road from Joe, and there's a driveway almost identical to Joe's. So if he says he can't see any, I'm helping them out to spot one out.
Okay. And then I think it's important also, I mean, I've been on the board for a couple of years now, and there are variances that are requested in the past before I was even on the board that sometimes are granted. We try as a board to be as thorough as possible and be consistent. You never know the certain situations. There are some places that I've been around in town that I know are in violation of code and haven't either been reported, happened discreetly. So there could be potentially someone across the street that didn't follow the proper channels, that might have poured concrete and hasn't gotten flagged or something like that. So again, I'm not making excuses. There are reasons why there are certain houses that are similar and that there are some that are not. And there's a whole myriad of different reasons why that could potentially happen. So on that note, Rob, you didn't have anything else? Your hand's still raised. You're good, right?
No, my hand's not raised. That's something.
Oh, no, you're virtual. We're hand raised. That's all. You're good. All right, board members, let's take it to you guys so we can continue to move forward here. Thoughts, gentlemen?
Looks like the petitioner had his hand up, Tommy. If you wanted to have him have a last word.
Whose hand?
The petitioner or the property owner?
Oh, is it virtually or?
His iPhone.
Oh, okay, I see it. It's hard to keep track of all the different screens and stuff. So I got one virtually raised and then one visually raised. All right, go ahead.
I had one question is if the side of the garage doesn't allow enough room for a parking spot, what is code for variance then after that?
That's up to the board to decide, I guess. The board can grant a dimensional variance, and that's what's being considered tonight. That's up to them, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure that's very clear. So right now it's in violation because it goes beyond the garage. But if it led to a setback, then it's good. The problem there though is that it doesn't look from the visual that there's enough space on the side of the property to not encroach on the setback requirement for that. So that would lead to then a completely different variance request, which would be a completely different debate. So that's not the one here. It could lead there based on how we discuss this, but that's not what we're determining tonight, or at least as of right now. So, okay, let's get to some discussion from the board. I'll just call upon you guys if that's okay. And you guys say I have no discussion or whatever, if that's all right. I'll start with Tom. You got anything?
My perspective on this is I'm feeling more towards Mr. Conrad's point of view in regards to denying the variance. Just short story is it goes to privacy, and I can understand his perspective on that.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I'm just gonna go around the horn here. Noel, I think you're next in my visual cue.
It sounds like there's multiple points of non-conformance with this driveway as it exists. In terms of taper and width and other things. And, this is why we've got a permit process, and if the driveway is poured without a permit, we know it's not, in this case, we know it's not conforming. My inclination is going to be to say no unless the, petitioner is willing to table for a period and work with staff and see if they can come up with a plan that might be acceptable. With maybe some partial cutout without necessarily removing the entirety of the thing. But otherwise, if we've got to act tonight, up or down, I'm going to vote no.
Thank you, Noel. All right, I will go to Don.
Yeah, my thoughts are that I would be opposed as well. It it sure seems like the preponderance of the evidence here is that this was done without the necessary approvals, despite the neighbor raising the appropriate concerns. My judgment is, would I grant a variance on this if nothing had been done and if the applicant was presenting it before he does the work instead of after? And I would say no at that point too. The other comment I'll make is that 422 Manchester, which is the one that the applicant is offering as an example, and is also the residence of Mr. Charles, who made the comment in favor of it. He is the one who does have exactly the problem that the 425 people have. So I would expect 422 to be in favor of whatever 425 is doing, because 422 is definitely not in compliance with the code as we've talked about it tonight. But anyway, to make a long story short, Mr. Chair, I will definitely be voting no on the variance request.
Okay, and thank you for those comments and that bit of research. Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm inclined to agree with Noel's reasoning. There's multiple defects. I think maybe, it's possible that we could come to the point where those defects are resolved. I also think that there's a question about property lines that needs to be resolved before anything is really done. Paul had mentioned something about ordering a survey done, or did I mishear you, Paul?
Well, that's a suggestion. Again, looking at the photo I showed before, it certainly seems like that driveway is near on the property line. I think it's the property owner's responsibility to demonstrate that it's compliant, and survey would be one way of doing that.
Okay. I mean, I drove by this property and looked at it. The quality of work is good. The construction is good, but it's clearly out of code and done without a permit. I would be in favor of tabling this to see if property line issues can be worked out and code issues, so that it could be modified for that. So maybe there'd be only one piece out, but if I had to vote tonight, I would vote down.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I think I'd like to hear from you guys to see if that's something that we would like to do, and then see if the applicant wants to kind of table and come back. I think there's a lot of value, especially, and I want to make sure everybody, again, on the call or who's listening to this, it's a tough spot when work's already done. We had one a few months ago. It was just devastating because work was done. There was maybe a miscommunication or something happened, but the board has said this, and I think Don was the one who said it. We have to look at it as if the work has not been done. And would we do that? The other thing we have to consider as well is, how does this property live for the next 50 years, the next homeowner? And is it being used in a functional way? And does the property owner have the ability to design their property to use it for what they need, but it's also the next property owner and the next property owner. So we're not just creating more problems within the community. So I think all those things need to be considered. What I'd like to hear from the applicant is that, are you open to us tabling it where you can work with the city, maybe get some more work done to see if there's any portions that you can remove without removing just everything and the whole thing gets denied. Because right now that's where the board's leaning, but I do see an opening here for potentially working through the problem to see if there is an option to keep some or all of that. And I want to hear from the petitioner on that.
Yes, I'm more than willing to work with the city and see what we can do.
Okay. I
think Rob was actually the name on the petition, right?
Oh, okay, Rob.
I just want to state one thing. I know we keep going back. The concrete, we did have a permit, and it was inspected before we poured any concrete. It was just that a few things were missed as far as, and I got it here, September 27th, text message. You have been inspected for the city, it says sidebar, but sidewalk, too much pitch. Raise the lower side of the curb about 1/2 inch and you can pour it. So the concrete wasn't poured without any permits. It was just things got missed by the inspector, and it came back around because Travis, I believe, had some complaints. So what, which drew a red flag to say. So it wasn't really done without a permit.
Okay, I hear it. And I think
we're kind
I got it. And I think we need to move forward. There's other people on the call, and I think we've heard enough. I think I know where the board's going, and I think the opening here, and Travis, I see your hand raised, but I think we need to move forward here. And I appreciate everybody's comments. Again, these are not easy things. A lot of times it's nice when it's 5-0 and everybody's in agreement, and sometimes it's not. But I think we've heard a lot of testimony here. I think the board is leaning a certain way. So I would like to hear a motion for, at least that's where I'm leaning, for kicking it down 30 days or the next meeting to see if there's some work that can be done in between. Tom, I see you shaking your head, so I know where you're at, but is there anybody that is open to that, or do we want to just have yes, Mr. Stoyer?
I've been bouncing around between meetings. This is actually in my district, so.
Oh, good.
I would like, I apologize for not jumping on that one right away either. I had another agenda item that we're delaying. But I would be willing to meet with both neighbors and take a look at the situation and see what we could come up with. So I'll be willing to do that, and I would like to see if we could delay that so we could gather that data and see if we could maybe work something out with the city.
All right, so I'm open to a motion here.
Move
See
the
where we
table
go.
for the next meeting.
Okay.
I second.
All right, Stephen, I got a motion by Noel and a second by Stephen to table for the next meeting. Let's go. Any other discussion before we take a vote? Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of tabling for next meeting so that there's some work can be done on this, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Okay,
I
I see
oppose.
Tom. All right, so we have a 4-1 vote, I think, if I'm counting correctly. Mr. Hoy, the nay here, so the motion carries. So just all parties work with the Alder Stoyer, work with Paul. I think we've been clear, ultimately if it stays as is, 30 days from now or whatever the next meeting is, I don't see the board changing. So do whatever you need to work and try and come up with a compromise here, and we'll consider it in 30 days to see if there's an alternative that can come up with. And again, I know these things are difficult, especially when work's been done. So just know that we understand that. All right.
I'll stop at both houses in the next few days and get.
Okay. I didn't get that. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, let's keep going here. Yes.
Chair, I cannot get a hold of Mr. Van Renmortel.
He's on the call now.
Is he on the call now?
Yep, and he's got live video, so.
Well,
Yeah.
can we
I think I
get
should
back?
go next. I should.
You
probably-
should. We
Yeah,
delayed
I think it's my
my,
turn. It's my turn.
Yeah.
well, we
Let's go to-
delayed my item, so I owe you one.
Let's go to the fifth item and we'll circle back.
All right.
All right. So the fifth item on the thing, Appeal 22-009, Mr. Hanson at 3007 Brook Park Drive. Paul, you're still with us?
I'm still
You are. You're still here.
Hang
Thanks,
on.
man. I appreciate it, man. We're almost there. All right, go
thank
ahead
you.
and tee this up for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a two-family dwelling. The concern is at 3007 Brook Park Drive. This is a low-density residential area. This is another case where a driveway was improved. I don't believe without permits. This is an image of how it was previously and how it is today, and it's an improvement.
Can you go back and forth? But it doesn't look like the same property, Paul.
Well, they're different distances. I'm pretty confident. I'm hopefully confident.
It's the same property.
I drove by it. It's the same property.
Yeah, so this is a street view, and this is provided by the applicant or by our inspectors. So the issue here again is kind of related to the driveway widths at the property line. Actually, the space on the left-hand side is not so much the problem as it is on the right-hand side. With the width being larger than it should be, this space is in front of the front door, and I think the board's seen some of these before with similar type units where there's one garage per unit, and there isn't much for driveway, so the tendency is to expand these driveways. In this case, expanding in front of the front door is not permitted. So the variance, again, is kind of assembled under one code, so to speak, but it's basically the width of the driveway, the tapers, and the parking on the right-hand side here in front of the front door.
Can I
Okay,
make an
thanks.
can I make an opening statement before we talk to Eric?
Let's touch base with the board real quick,
Okay.
and make sure there's no, operational, informational questions about this application, and then we'll jump to you. Any question from the board members for Paul, informational based? Okay, go ahead, Alderperson Dorf.
Thank you. This is something that I've been working on, and thank you, Mr. Hoy. Tom Hoy has been very gracious in providing me with information, and he makes some very good points, very valid points with his information, and in concerns about safety. In the meantime, I also reached out to the police department and the fire department. This happens to be spring break week. So both of I can't get hold of one chief, and the other chief is definitely in Tennessee. I have gotten hold of a few people, the fire marshal and a commander, and lots of emails back and forth that finally landed on, because of the reasons they're requesting this, which I will let Mr. Hanson tell you, they feel that they could support it. Now, if we want them to be here in person, we might have to wait till the next meeting, because I only found out about, Mr. Hoy was so gracious to tell me these things, but it was yesterday. And so I couldn't get a police officer here. I tried, Tommy, to send you emails. Did you get them?
There was a couple that came through, but I got one from you. I don't know if maybe it was the wrong email or not, but I got one.
Okay, I tried to send two with the final answers. So there are some valid points on both sides. Mr. Hoy will make some valid points. Mr. Hanson will make some valid points. And then I guess in the end, if people are still just like wondering, or if you're tending toward no, I would want us to wait until the police and fire could get here and make their points. But I can read them later. I can read from the emails. So that's my opening statement. Thank you.
All right, no, thank you for that. Let's go ahead and jump to the applicant, Mr. Hanson. I see you. Go ahead and state your case.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is something that has, been difficult for us I've owned the property for over 36 years and actually lived in there for quite some time myself, actually, with a family. And we got, obviously, children, and we had, 2 bedrooms wasn't going to work anymore. So we moved, but I still own it, and been dealing with this parking issue for many years, where the tenants have gotten citations for parking on the road or on the grass. And I really never did anything about it. Obviously, I didn't expand the driveway, but then well, I don't want this to get emotional.
I think this is about his daughter. It's about his daughter being in a wheelchair and needing the area to be hard surfaced and not on the grass, because then she can get herself out of the car. And that gives her that little bit more of independence. And that's why this issue, it revolves around this family, and it revolves around a situation with the family. And I hear you say all the time, it's about the property 50 years down the line. It's about safety. And what I was going to be asking, and I'm going to be asking, is please, is there a balance between safety and doing what quality of life for a family? So Mr. Hanson, are you ready?
I'm not good at this.
I mean, it's a hard thing. Go ahead.
So my daughter was injured, and my youngest daughter lives there now with her fiance, and he has got, his brother also is in a wheelchair. And so he offered to expand the driveway for me. And of course, after that many years, I was opposed to it. And because my daughter was involved, I said, yeah. So we had it done, and then found out we made some mistakes, and I take responsibility for that. But looking at it, although there is concrete in front of that step, there was before for many years. We actually had a fence there at one time. And when I purchased it, and we've had emergency vehicles before there, and they never had any problem at all accessing that front door. The city's been great. Pete O'Connor and Paul Newmeyer were excellent. So I cannot say anything bad about them. They worked with me, gave me some options that as a family, we went over there and they weren't going to work. It just, my daughter has a van and it accesses out the side, and with the tenant and her daughter, and if there's two vehicles, my daughter needs that center driveway, and then the handicap ramp would come off the side to that new driveway extension, that wing. And, you know, there was some options, but it's still going to have to go through grass or over some kind of barrier, and it's just not going to work. I wish I had, you know, other answers, but I don't. And I appreciate Alderperson Dorf too, because she jumped on it right away, and that was pretty impressive. So, but it is what it is. And after hearing this last one, you know, we'll just have to sit and figure it out.
Okay. Thank you for those comments, and thank you, Alder Dorf. Is there anything you wanted to add, Alder Dorf, before we go to the public?
Not really, but I think after Tom speaks, perhaps I could speak again too, because I think he's got some valid concerns, and I've got some possible answers for those concerns.
Got it. Okay, great. Board, is there any questions for the applicant before we go to public discourse on this? Okay, seeing none. I'm assuming that everybody else that's on the call is potentially for speaking with this. So same thing, the ask would be just, if you can, digitally, there's a reaction button. Just go ahead and click that and then raise your hand. And then I'll just call upon those that have their hand raised. And we'll just go through, because there might be multiple people here. My ask would just, you know, try not to linger on. We want to move timely. So try and keep it to, you know, 2 minutes and under. I think that's a fair amount of time. And we'll try and get through this. Okay. I saw Tyler's iPhone had their hand raised, but then it went away. You're good? Okay. All right. Anybody on the call that is wanting to speak for or against this variance? Okay. We have a lot of people that are on the call. I'm so curious to see where they
I think that this is the family. This is Eric's family.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Family. If you're family, could you nod your heads yes? Because he's wondering why you're here. You're the family.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we have a silent group that is here to support, I'm guessing. There's no one from the family that I think is probably saying no. Okay. Then let's do this. Let us go ahead and discuss this as a board. Alderdorf, is the email, it's a chain that I see, and I have
There's
like
a huge chain. Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to real quick, so I don't have to read through all of it, because I was looking through all the emails.
Yeah.
You know, I was getting a bunch that were just a real quick highlight. I don't necessarily know if you want to read through every part of it, but like the highlight of the email. Yeah.
What it turned out to be was, sure, yes, at first, when I first presented it, didn't give any background at all. It was like, well, you know, for safety, you know, in order to get into the building, the police really didn't have trouble with it, but the fire thought, well, maybe it would be hard to get in. And if there's someone, you know, that would need medical assistance, it would be harder to get in. Then the fire then landed on, I stated earlier, the fire code does not address the situation because the building's a duplex and not a commercial property. The recommendation from the fire department was a common sense recommendation with the known given facts at the time. And the recommendation is just that, a recommendation, not code. That was when they were recommending maybe don't do it. Then with the new given information, I would not have a problem with the concrete pad being in front of the door. I would encourage the owner to have the residents park offset of the front door as much as possible. There's a higher probability of an ambulance call at that location if there are medical issues. That was from Captain Joe Gabe, who is the fire marshal. So they landed on, after I sent emails from Eric and the family explaining the need, landed on, yeah, they don't have a problem with it. And police was Kevin Warwick, Commander Warwick. From the police department perspective, our sole concern is at the access into the duplex. Judging by the photos you provided, officers can still gain access into the duplex. A car would have to be right next to the door, and even then, officers would find alternative ways into the duplex. Although having the car that close would not be safe, nor would it look good for the neighbors. However, in the end, our focus is ingress and egress of the duplex. I hope this helps. So there was no firm objection from fire or police at all.
Okay. Thank you for that. And again, just for the record, there's like a long email chain, and Alderdorf, can send that over so it can be part of the minutes. But it was basically stating those opinions. And I think it's important for everybody to also know we've had these before as a board, and safety. We've actually sent this back to council for council to consider and get recommendations from fire and police. And again, just so everybody understands, and I'm summarizing, I'm not by any means an expert to speak on this, but if a car is blocking, any emergency services from being able to enter their front door or exit with whatever emergency services that they need, becomes a major safety issue. And so we've talked about that. We've talked about, hey, can we, adjust the variance because we see a lot of these? Can we put like bushes in front to have cars not be able to park in certain areas? So we've seen these before. We've come down pretty consistently on it, but again, I'm curious to see where the board is discussing this. It is a unique situation, but just want to give that context as to why, right? The why, just in case it does, get denied. There is a why. So anyway, that's it. I'll leave it to the board to discuss. We'll do the same thing if that's okay, gentlemen. Round horn. I'm going to start with Tom, if that's okay, because you're in the first position on my screen now.
Maybe if Paul could bring up the photo of the car being parked in the driveway by that door. I'd like to talk about that. Okay, when I looked at this and I saw that the car was parked to the right of the door, I could see that ingress and egress was not going to really be hassled. Okay, and so I was kind of looking for a way to maybe possibly consider this, which is why I recommended Alderdorf contact the fire department and the police department, because in the past, when I pinged them, I didn't get an answer. Okay, Paul had to send them an email to get their viewpoints on things. So I felt pretty comfortable approaching Alderdorf about, where we might need to go. And I did say explicitly that if I had information from the police and the fire department in regards to this, and they said it was okay, I'd certainly be willing to consider that. So that's where part of me is, okay? In hearing the personal circumstances in regards to his situation, in one point, though, the lives that we live and the places we choose to stay, those are choices, okay? And if you need to change, maybe you need to change where you live. I'm not comfortable with the EMTs and the police department. They have a mission and they have an objective, okay? And that's as fast as they can to get that person in or out. You have a choice. They don't have a choice on that objective. That's their duty and that's their obligation. As a person where you live, that's a choice, okay? And needs change as life changes. So I'm still kind of torn. I mean, I guess if the board were to go forward with this, I'm comfortable having the endorsement of the fire department, but I'd really want Chief Litton, the big guy, to have him weigh in on it. I hate to rope these people into it, okay? Because we're kind of a buffer, between the council and them. And I wouldn't want to have, the police, coming in on and looking at every variance request. That's not what I was going for. But it seemed to me like, okay, do we have any wiggle room here at all? Because the park to the right of it, you got ingress and egress to the door without a problem. But at the same time, I don't want to step on the fire department's toes either, right? Or the council's toes. So I'd be a lot happier pushing it down the road and hearing it from Fire Chief Litton. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
Can I
Thank you,
add
Mr. White.
something? Chief Litton gave it to the fire marshal. He has an email where he said, these guys will make the decision. So I could send you that.
Okay.
Okay. Just
Okay.
like that. Okay.
Great. All right, let's keep going around the horn. And I know Alder Dorf, you had mentioned that you wanted to add one more comment. So let me get through the board, if that's okay, real quick. And then if you have one more thing to add, and then we'll go there. I think next on my thing is Noel. Go ahead.
Sure. And I don't want to sound in my comments here, Mr. Hoy, that I'm in any way, calling your judgment into question on this. But I have to say, as somebody who works professionally in housing, you don't always have a choice about where you live. People get into circumstances that, kind of tie their hands sometimes in terms of where they can live, what they can do, and what their options are. And we haven't talked about what, Mr. Hansen's daughter's circumstances are, whether there's other housing choices for her that don't have a need to park in front of a front door or some other situation like that. But I know from my experience, seeing firsthand the circumstances of people of modest means in our community struggling to get their housing needs addressed, and not always successfully, that I can't assume that people have other choices, particularly if there is a mobility limitation or some other challenge in their lives that might make economic impacts on them, and their budgets and their ability to make choices in their housing. So I've got to look at the circumstance of the people who are living there right now and the petitioner's request in this. And I dyed in the wool. Don educated us well in this, and so did Tom, in terms of look, if it's going to involve not being able to get a gurney out the front door because there's a car parked there, we should say no to it. That's the way. And but in this case, given the homework that's been done by the family and the alder and all and officials in the fire department, the police department, and others, I'm inclined to go with this, with the recommendation that if we do approve the variance, that they are encouraged to park as far from that front door as possible, to make as much available space for any emergency services personnel that they can. But I'm inclined to approve this request.
Thanks, Noel. And I'm going to jump in before I go to the other two real quick. Not as a comment, but a question, because I've never seen this before. Are we able to put in an approval of a variance? This is a weird, but conditional on the resident living there. So let's say the resident, Don, you're nodding, which is a good sign. Like, say the resident leaves. And this is a very unique situation, but once that resident leaves, that variance is then pulled and has to be re-reviewed. Is that something we can do procedural, Don? I'd love to hear from you, since you were, the ex-chair, and Paul obviously as well.
My understanding, Tommy, is that yes, we can put any condition we want on the variance. That was the original instruction that I got when I was first on the board by the city attorney umpty-ump years ago. But I point out that puts an enforcement requirement on the city staff to determine if, whatever limit of time or construction we impose is actually being met. But otherwise, my understanding, to answer your question, was that we can indeed, and we have indeed in the past put conditions on that have also involved time. I know particularly, but way back when, we put a limit of 7 years on a variance that we granted. But once again, of course, we have to think about who's going to go and check on that after a certain period of time. And I don't want to have us put a bunch of limits on that ends up creating an awful hassle for the city to enforce. Otherwise, yeah, we can condition it as we think we need.
Okay. Any additional comments on that, Paul?
I would agree. I guess you just have to think what would be reasonable.
Okay.
I mean, if you, whatever you would choose, we'll enforce if we need to.
Okay, and in the enforcement, again, systems change, databases change, whatever. If we did a time, for example, like, hey, let's check in a couple of years, is that something that someone has to keep track of, or does the system flag it where in that time period it'll pop up in your system and it's something that you're seeing can check in at that time, so it's not a burden?
Yeah, I think we could build it into the system, but we'd ultimately have to rely on the property owner or the tenant to let us know their status.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, Don, let's just go back to you. Any other comments? Then I'll come back to Stephen.
Yeah, looking at the picture here, and if our concern is solely being able to take a gurney out the front door, as the example that Tommy's given, it looks to me that if the screen door were hinged in a different on the other side, that the door would open up in such a way that they could easily get a gurney out even if a car were there. So on the general principle, I was opposed to this by looking at it, but in the particular case that we have before us with the photos that we have, I think if the hinges were on the right side instead of the left, you could get things past there, even if the car were right up to the front, because you've already got that large patio or semi-stoop, I guess you could call it, right in front of the door.
Okay, thanks, Don. Stephen?
So I guess I had a couple of questions, and some of this is my newness to this, so please forgive me for that. I understand why it was put there, and of course I have sympathy for Mr. Hansen's daughter and her predicament there. But why wasn't it just a pad variance for a pad poured there to allow the ingress and egress of the for the wheelchair? I don't see why there had to be a driveway where a car could park and actually create the problem for police or fire, or why it was done on the other side either. I understand the tenants have issues, but they knew that when they moved in. I don't know if that left side is in or out of code. That Paul could probably enlighten us with that, but I don't understand why this had to be this way. It would have been a lot easier to grant a variance for a pad to make it easier to get the wheelchair in and out of the van than it is to grant it for the base of the driveway and the whole driveway going in front of the door.
Paul, do you want to answer that? And then I have, it's a number, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name, but a hand raised for a comment on that, but I'll start with Paul.
Again, I think this is a case where no permits were taken out. So, we didn't have a chance to react to that and provide guidance. It's tight quarters here, right, between the garage and the front door. I think the pad that was there was simply a sidewalk. The problem is when there's a connection of these two pavements together, they become a driveway. That's part of the problem on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, there is an exemption where you have a single stall. You can expand up to 8 feet beyond the garage door opening, but you have to have the appropriate taper. In this case, it doesn't have that appropriate taper, but the left side is not so problematic as the right side.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Stephen, do you mind if I get the
No,
question
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So it's not a name, but it's a 735080. Your hand's raised. Go ahead. You can jump in here for a comment.
Yep, so I'm Julie Hansen, 454 Masters Lane. I'm Jenna's mom, Eric Hansen's wife. Just to add a very quick comment to the answer, put it in some type of pad. When Jenna fortunately got a new van that she was able to drive, versus having to have a little car. When you pull up the reason we made this decision, when Jenna's van would pull up, we'd either have to use the other side's tenants to pull it when her ramp wouldn't come down. And the day we got her down the ramp, it did take that much. We got stuck in mud, bottom line. And her two little boys, a 5 and 6-year-old, sat there and cried as we had her wheelchair out of the mud. I said to Eric, I don't care what it costs. Our neighbors have the same exact duplex, same right next door, and they have the same drive-up thing. They don't have a person in a handicap, that can't walk and probably never will. It's not right. So I was one of the, it's like, we need to do something about this. So a pad, when Jenna is parked there, her ramp is down, we have enough room to get her out of to come down the ramp, turn. And the thing is we didn't have the cement going up to the door. We have to, or we get stuck, and it happened in mud. And that it's not only devastating to her, but you just have to trust me. It is really, really, really nice. It's just helpful to have a person be able to actually get into the house, and it does help a really lot. And it just would be really, we did what we really truly felt with, Jenna's going to be devastated. She knows we did this, and, to have to see cement come up, it would be horrible. And I'm sorry, but I just wanted to input that it was important. We didn't make it bigger than we thought, because we wouldn't have done that. Honestly, we would not have.
Okay.
So thank you for listening.
No, thank you for that. Stephen, I have another hand raised. Do you want to finish your comments before I go to that other?
I think I'm done with my comments. I've had the questions that I had answered.
Okay, Morgan, I saw your hand raised. You want to go ahead and add some comments here?
Yeah, in easy words, it makes Jenna completely independent with the amount of concrete we have. Everybody wants to be independent. And if you met Jenna, you would know. If she would have a small pad, she can't be independent. She would have to be lifted by her husband, which if we don't have the full thing, she can't come over without her husband, which has been needed to be done. She can't be fully independent is what I think the number my mom, Julie, was trying to say is if it was a small pad, it leaves her with no independence besides literally getting her wheelchair, possibly even safely out of the van off the ramp. But with the full, essentially you called it a driveway, not just a pad. That leaves her with full independence and mobility of safely getting out of her wheelchair and safely mobility up the driveway, down, and being able, she needs to boost herself and get some speed to get up the ramp. And without the concrete there, she cannot give herself enough, because she's still very weak. This is new. She needs the space essentially to be independent. The pad just
thank you for that.
wasn't her yet.
Okay, for a point of clarification for me, and maybe I missed this, so I apologize to anybody for adding more time to this meeting, but the van that is parking, is that the one that is going to be parking in the spot that is the expansion, or is it the one in front of the garage door?
The garage door.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. All right, let's see, who have I not called? Don, Stephen, have I heard from everybody on the board? I think I have. Okay, Alder Dorf, do you have anything else you have to add?
No, just to reaffirm that, Chief Litton, and I did send the email now to Tom and to you, Tommy, that I forwarded this to AC Goplin and Fire Marshal Gabe to review. So he is giving them their permission to do that.
And a point of order for me, Paul, is that something that Alder Dorf, should I just email that off to you, Paul? Or is that Alder Dorf, did you CC Paul in any of that for the record?
God, I thought I did, but Paul, I'll make sure I do. I CC'd you in the whole long train, and that was in there, but I could do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. My inkling, just so I can have comments, obviously, there's so many things going on here. Clearly a unique, very, very unique situation. And so I appreciate everybody's, willingness to be on a call, very long meeting, to be here to be supportive. I see there's a lot of people still on the call. So thank you for that. We always hate considering work that has already been done. And so that is just a comment as well that I think is important. Anytime you're doing anything, just work with the city. They're great. They get a bad rap. And I have a hard time with that, because I think Paul and his team, everybody there at the city is awesome. It's just a matter of understanding what that process is, because there's a lot of stuff that could potentially be solved prior to a situation like this. So that's just a comment for all of this, not necessarily this one specific thing. I don't know, guys. I'm more inclined to say add some conditions to this. You know, we've been really pretty hard line about anything, because I think for me, this unique situation is super important. I think there's everybody can agree on that. But say the house sells, say it goes, and now we have just a random person parking there, and they might not know why that driveway was widened or what variance was approved. And I just feel that we've been so consistent after working with council and the fire chief. And I even feel, maybe I'm incorrect, but like I feel like their comments are situationally based on this individual one, versus how they have felt overall on how we've approached these. And I think that's super important that we consider that. So I am open, and Noel, I see your hand raised. I'm open to approving this, but I would feel significantly better if we put some sort of condition on this, whether it was, you know, painting a line on it that says don't park beyond this spot. So there's, you know, whatever, I'm not quite sure, but, or hey, if change of ownership happens, that the variance goes away, because I would hate to see this property be owned by someone else who doesn't understand the why, and there's a car parked there, and we contribute to a really dangerous situation in the future. This group seems to understand the why, but who knows where that changes. And I'd be open to suggestions for condition there. Those are my comments. I'll jump to Noel, and then let's see if we can get something wrapped up here.
Yeah, I guess this is more a question for the petitioner. So if the van's parking in front of the garage stall, and then I'm assuming then is the lift on the side of the van, then on the passenger side of the van to exit?
Yes.
So
correct.
then is the chair then moving straight toward the stoop and the door from that position? And is the ramp in front of that stoop, or is the ramp to the side of the stoop?
The ramp goes to the front of the stoop towards the road.
That area where we're actually most concerned about is the area that's already got a ramp for it, and the people using this are going to park in such a way as to make that ramp accessible, which would also be convenient for anybody wheeling a gurney, because it's going to be the most advantageous in and out. And in a sense, the adaptation that the petitioner's done here is making it exactly useful the way we're imagining it to be used in the event of an emergency with the EMTs.
So I thought of that, Nolan. Actually, I think it's a great point to bring up. But is a gurney the length of a gurney, right? So like the turning radius. I'm assuming there's a turn in this, right? So it comes like this and then turns towards the house. Is that fair?
Oh, it's going straight up it's going straight up that right.
There's no turn in the ramp.
Right. No, it just goes straight in.
Oh, it just goes straight in.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, I guess, you know, I hear the pleas and the family, and I'm really touched by them. It doesn't completely overcome my desire to hold anybody to the requirements of pulling a darn permit before you do work. I think that's really critical if that wasn't done. But I would be supportive of a variance that, you know, maybe just ran with the ownership of the property.
How does the rest of the board feel with that kind of like stipulation on the thing? Something in there that's like, hey, if the property changes hands, the variance goes away and they need to come back to the board.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Tommy. Paul, is there a way to put some sort of entailment in the ownership deed or public records of this property to allow for that?
There is a document our law department can file called a lis pendens against the property. Upon the sale of the property, we would be notified, and we could, at that point, I guess, participate in the discussion.
Okay, does
that become a very large burden to keep track of or anything, Paul? I mean, I'm leaning there. I know Noel's got his hand there, but that makes sense to me.
I don't think there's a burden. I mean, it's a little bit more work for our law department to do that. We put it in our Eclipse system, our tracking permit system. But yeah, I mean, we could make it work somehow.
Okay. All right, Noel, you had your hand raised for a quick second, then it's gone.
No, it was still up, but I would say, yeah, I think if we were to do that, the largest burden is actually on the owner, because then if they ever going to sell or something, then the title search is going to reveal that, and they're going to say, hey, there's a variance that's going to expire here with the change of property, and you're going to want to,
yeah,
you're going to want that dealt with in some fashion. But given
okay,
the market's anything like it is today, then they won't have a problem selling it.
yeah, for sure. Okay, I think we're close. Oh, we have hands raised again. All right. Okay, quickly, if that's okay. Morgan, I'll start with you.
I have a quick question. Say it stays in the family's hands, comes to me, my brother, my other sister. Does the variance need to be renewed? If it's still in the family, but not owned by my father anymore? Because I really have a feeling it's never going to go out of the family. So
It would be
Yeah,
based on,
that's a good point. We can make accommodation for that in the motion, if that's something that's going to be supported.
I think again,
it's the point of the sale, I guess. If there's a transaction, then the city would be notified of that.
And then 735080, you had your hand raised. Do you have a comment anymore?
No, I mean, to me, it just seems like this made improvement. It's a better situation when Eric and I lived there way back with the kids, and like he was saying, there was a fence there. Literally, I had a seizure at one time where our two cars were parked. There's no way they could have even come through with a Gertie. They would have had to go around or in through the garage, which there's another entrance through the garage to go in the kitchen. No way would they have gone through. So really, it's right now is a way better situation if they needed, in fact, to get into the living room door with the gurney or fireman, how it is now than how it would have been before. And I mean, we have pictures I could have brought to show you the difference.
Okay, thank you. We need to move forward. So I'm gonna close off any more discussion here, except for Paul, you had your hand raised, or is he saying goodbye?
I think he was saying goodbye.
Okay, all right, okay.
Tommy.
Yeah, I know, right? We have to go back to that other one still. All right. I think just a comment. I think it's really, really important that the family understand where the board's at. Had this unique circumstance not come up, obviously it's very unique, and we would probably really quickly move through a no in this case, and it would have to be taken out. And that is because we've done a board. I know you're not part of this, but many hours that the team at the city council, fire chief, police chief, everybody has gone through, and consistently, because we saw a lot of these coming, especially in duplex situations. Everybody needs more parking for more cars, and it was pretty clear. Do not approve these from a safety perspective. And I think everybody's willing to kind of be okay with looking at this because of the unique situation. And we are somewhat tied in what we can do in terms of stipulations. We're saying this ownership change because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be there. It just shouldn't. So will it get flagged if all of a sudden, parents own it and they decide to just allow someone to live there under their ownership? No, it probably won't get flagged. It's when it's set. From my understanding, based on what Paul was saying, it's based on when the house is sold and it'll get flagged. Our ask in looking a different way at this, which again, I want to be really clear, we've gone through many of these. It's been no, really quickly. We are willing, I think I'm hearing the board to say we're willing to do this potentially with a majority. I'm not sure where the vote will land, but what I will say that our ask is that regardless of how the stipulation lands, understand the why. And right now that shouldn't be there. It is a safety hazard. We've been really clear about it. And I just want to make sure that's on the record. And however that shows up, whatever you decide to do as you own the home, just know that that's the why. All right, board, I am ready for.
I just want to
To
step
be
in.
fair, Tommy, to be fair, this is the first time we've had to consider it with a handicap situation.
Yeah, okay, true, absolutely, Tom. Madison, you are here. Hi.
Hey, yeah, no, I am just stepping in for Paul. He's jumping over
for the
to
last one.
Plan Commission right now and then jumping back. So if you do have any staff questions,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yay.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. All right, let's go ahead, board. I think we're ready for a motion here. So let's get that going so we can move forward. It's been a long meeting here.
I'd move approval of the variance as requested, and for that approval to run concurrent with the family's ownership of the property.
I second that motion.
Okay, I'll give it to Don. Sorry, Stephen. So I have a motion by Noel and a second by Don to approve the variance with the condition of that it lives with the family ownership, and if that changes, that it will be flagged and potentially reviewed by the board again. Everybody clear on that? Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is some good work by the board. Thank you, everybody. Alder Dorf for your participation, the family for being on the call, and everybody's comments. Again, I know it's a very
Thank you.
difficult situation. So thanks for everybody being here, and feel
Thank
free to
you.
stay. Work with Paul. Obviously, we have Madison here, but work with Paul on whatever those next steps are. And thanks for participating. All right.
Thank you so much.
For your time. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, you're welcome. All right, so thank you. I will start by also saying thank you to the board members and everybody on this call. This is probably one of our longer meetings. We do have one more to go. And so Mr. Van Remortel, we left off. We're going back to item 1. We have some comments there. And again, thank you for your patience. Alder Stoyer, thank you for your patience. Hopefully he's still here. But we want to get back to item 1 and hear comments. And then we can kind of pick ourselves back up. Madison, I don't know if you mind just really, really quickly giving us, I don't know if we need it, but just bring us back, maybe take us through a 15-second version of where we're at with this to remind us where we are.
Sure,
Yeah.
I think that's item 2. That's item 2, by the way.
Oh, my bad. My item 2. Forgive me.
I
I've lost track
can
of it.
share my screen if that's helpful. 1 second. I wasn't overly prepared for this.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, I hate when BOA conflicts with DC.
While she's doing that, Mr. Van Remortel, if you want to provide your comments while she's pulling that up, we can listen and wait at the same time.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me this time?
Yep.
We can.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
All right. Yeah, I've been at 1876 Gary, right next door to the one that they want to build for 17 years now. And I guess there's multiple reasons why I am in opposition. When we first moved in here, it was nice and quiet, very, very so busy it got. And then all the construction started with the roundabout and redoing Taylor Street. I had stuff falling off my walls and breaking. I've got a small crack in the ceiling of my kitchen. The windows were damn near rattles. Then we had to put up with this Purveyor's doctor's office. The whole house was constantly vibrating. I could hear things on my walls moving. Okay. Now we got a bank that's going to be built over here, so we're going to have to put up with more construction. Okay. I went out and looked at this lot. I don't know why they decided they can try and shove a house in it. I don't like the style of the house. It does not fit with the neighborhood. The style house belongs on a lake overlooking some water. Privacy issues because all the windows probably look right into mine, and I don't want to keep curtains closed. It's too close. Okay, I mean, I've been here 17 years. I don't want to. I don't want. I mean, I understand. And also one other thing. How does one find out if these lots are for sale? And if there are more, and how come maybe I wasn't contacted to see if I wanted to buy a lot? Is there a website that has these lots for sale? Why didn't I hear about it until 5 days before the meeting? There's too many things. There's privacy issues, construction. I've had, and also on the plans, it says rental property on the actual building plans. And I've had problems with people, the renters in the duplexes that were moved here, just causing all kinds of problems. I've had issues with my internet going all over the place, in and out, because of all the lines being moved, because of Taylor Street, because of the hospital, the doctor's office, all of this stuff that continues to happen to this day. There's too many factors here. I don't want a house that close to me. It's just plain and simple. Along with all the noise and all the other stuff, it's just not cool to me whatsoever. So I guess that's about what it comes down to.
Okay, thank you for those comments. And again, one more time, thank you for sticking around and coming back in. I know it's been a long wait. Madison, were you able to, I think we all know which the property's off of Taylor Street. It's the thinner one. It's got the,
Give me the agenda item number and I can pull it up.
number 2.
Okay.
I just want to make sure, because there's, different viewpoints here. I want to make sure the board is really aware of kind of what we're considering here.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am going to.
Upon you.
I love that you guys are bearing with me right now.
It's all
one
good.
moment.
We've gone this long. Let's just keep going. I'm going to be here. We're going to be here till 9. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
No kidding. All right. So, just gonna keep going down here because Paul classified and gave all of this information. Yada yada.
No, so it's before these. So I think it was the one before where you started. We're looking for, I think it's Taylor Street.
No, it's
There it is.
1882 Gary.
There it is.
That was it. That was it.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.
All right, let's just scroll down a little bit for us so we can just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, for
get
sure.
through this.
So this is the
was that?
property.
Nope, the one before.
No,
The one before
Before?
this.
Okay.
Yep.
That one.
There
I'm
it
so
is.
sorry. I got thrown into this like literally 30
That's
minutes.
it.
there we are. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Let's just
so-
scroll through the slides real here.
Yeah. John Leroy, Mao and Associates, property owner proposes to construct a single family home in a low density residential R1 district in 220 North Taylor Street, 1882 Gary Lane. The applicant agenda, for ZA, BOA tonight, requests to deviate from the following requirements from Chapter 44, our municipal zoning code, for their side rear yard setback, and the interpretation of Paul, who's not here, I'm here, is the regarding to section 44 1580 single family R1 home design, and this
Got
is
it.
in Mark Stoyer's district. So this is the location. You have North
Yep.
Taylor, you got Delsman, and this is the parcel right on the corner right there. This is the site plan that we were provided with from John Leroy, Mao and Associates. And I can zoom in further as well.
Nope, we're
this-
good.
Yeah, this is the, I guess,
Proposed
the
design.
aesthetic look and the design. I mean, it looks
Yep.
pretty fancy, actually. I would book an Airbnb there, definitely. And this is the street view. So
Got it.
between either one, and I can go back in between.
I think
but
if you
this is in your
leave it on the
packet.
site plan, I think that's the best one. The site
Okay.
plan would be probably the
one?
best one to leave it at. Yep.
Perfect.
All right, let's do this.
Let me zoom in a little bit.
Is there anybody else on the call that is for or against this that we haven't heard from yet? Okay. I don't think so. Alder Stoy, I'll give it back to you for one more, since you've been here the whole time. I want to give it back to you one more time before we, thank you again for being with us and your time.
Yeah, it's been quite an evening. Thanks for that, and I appreciate the board taking the time on this as well. Again, back about an hour and a half ago, I had mentioned to you that I had met with Mr. Van Remortel last Wednesday. He had gotten a letter from the city talking about this variance. He was kind of surprised. couple, 5 days before the meeting. I had not received anything from the city. I had to call the city to get that information. So I was a little perturbed about that. So some of the city staff wasn't there. Paul Newmeyer was on vacation, and it was just hard getting a hold of people. But besides that fact, I went over there twice and looked at the property with Mr. Van Mortel on the situation. I used to work for the city. I was involved with mapping and aerial photos, so I checked some of the air photos, and I don't think we have them here, but if you look at the 2010 air photo, it's on Brown Dog, the GIS for the Brown County mapping, and you can look that up very easily. It showed a house on the said property, and also one to the north where a house is being built right now. Those were taken down, I believe the state and some of the federal monies, but the state came in, did some work on Taylor Street. You had a roundabout put in. Eventually the Prevea Clinic came in, but Miss Williamson, who testified or sent a letter to you, she lives across the street, and she and her husband purchased a property next to them. And I don't know how she was privy to it, and Doug, Mr. Van Mortel, was not, on his situation. They put some landscaping in and such. The state had come in, they did some landscaping. And my thought was that, okay, with all of the commercial activity that's going on, you've got Fleet Farm, you've got 2 gas stations, you've got Myers Super Center store, you've got the hospital, Prevea Clinic, which is very large in the hospital corridor, all permitted uses, but the fact of the matter is this neighborhood is being squeezed. So that's one of the reasons I had concern about this. I talked to Matt Bablich, who's one of the city inspectors. He sent me some information, was very cooperative. He was very cooperative with me. I really appreciate his efforts. And he stated that the home that's being built at 1881 Dowsman met all the setback requirements that were asked of, even though it's within maybe an inch or two. I'm not exactly sure, but it sounded like it was just barely made the setback requirements. To the south now with the vacant lot, the talk is to put there's a 4.5 foot request to have so that they can build this other house. And by the way, I was going to tell Noel Halverson, I said I liked the design. I was a little distracted. My thought was that it would be good in another location, like a lake. As far as the designs fitting in the neighborhood, I agree with Mr. Van Mortel saying that it would not fit in the neighborhood. I mean, if you look at this neighborhood, it's a lot of ranch homes, a lot of single family homes. I'm looking at it. It's beautiful. I'd love to have this place myself, but it's not in the right. It's not in the right spot.
Yeah.
So you got that going, and like I said, I'll hold my comments for now and let the board talk about it, but I can interject accordingly. But I was a little stunned in my sense of the smell test or taste test. I'll say the smell test. I looked at the property and it just didn't look wide enough to put in a property, especially with the fact that landscaping, the berm and trees were put in to kind of shield the residences that are to the east from all the commercial properties around it. So I'll let the board talk for a while. I can talk all night, but I'll let you guys talk for a while.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you for the comments. Let's do the same thing here, gentlemen. I know, Mr. Wolf, you've been here for a long period of time. And again, I appreciate your patience with this and letting us have the ability to have other comments. So thank you for your patience as well. Before we go to the board, I know we heard your testimony before, and not to draw this out any longer, but I also want to make sure there's nothing else you want to add in terms of comments, since you have been so patient.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking to me? Who are you talking to there?
Mr. Wolf.
Oh, sorry. I was dozing.
Yes, I would like to address some of the concerns in there. First of all, to your question is, the state owned these lots. They sold the lots. The city had nothing to do with the sale of these lots. So the city was not aware. You wouldn't have found any of that information on any city website. It would have been on a state agency. Generally, I believe those are sold by auction. So, and it does meet city standards for size and area, right away, as a standard lot for city code. The one constraint that we had here that was not apparent at time of sale was the location of the power lines and the lack of a recorded easement for those power lines. It's a prescriptive easement, meaning they're there, they exist, and We Energies has a right to constrain where we can place them. And as far as the question on traffic on Taylor, yes, I agree. Taylor is very busy. That is one reason why we're not taking a driveway out to Taylor. That, and for several blocks right in there, there are 0 driveways on Taylor. We plan on bringing the driveway out to Gary where the original driveway was, or on Gary, not in the exact same location. And as far as Mr. Rofers is going to do is sell these lots, is the best of my knowledge, not rent them out. I don't think he's in the business for rent and maintaining these properties. I think he's building them to resell them. And as far as the non-conforming, you will never put a ranch on this lot. It will not fit. And I do believe that this layout is the best option to place a house on there. It is different and unusual. I do feel that more lots that come available, that homes are no longer viable, you will see more homes of this style or similar styles being put up in these new older neighborhoods. I live in an older neighborhood myself, and there's a few homes that I would love to see. If not this one,
okay,
something newer.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. And I'm sorry to cut you off. I just want to make sure that it's been long and I think we've got a lot of comments and a lot of testimony. I'd like to run it through both for you guys. Any discussion, thoughts on this? Do you want me to do round robin again? Okay, I'll start. This time it's Tom again. You win. Don't move, Stephen, because you're going to be second.
I think I'm in agreement with Paul on this with respect to whether this fits in the neighborhood or not. So I would be inclined to deny the request.
Thanks, Tom. Stephen?
Yeah, I drove by this property and it actually took me a little while to find it because I couldn't believe that somebody wanted to jam a house between the power line and Mr. Van Remortel's house. It didn't look like a spot you could put a house. I understand the measurements do work out that way. Forgive me, this is a 615 square foot finished house. Yeah. I mean, it's also really near the power lines, so there's going to be a fair amount of hum and RF interference for that. This is not a great spot to put it. I think while I do enjoy the design of the house, I don't think it fits in the neighborhood at all. And I don't think it's real necessarily because it's 2 stories. I think it's because of the styling and the sloped roof and any number of other architectural factors. I think maybe you could renovate that around a little bit, but it seems to me that putting that in there right now, I mean, and I saw the one going in behind it as well, and I know that's within code, but it's really a tiny spot. I would be disinclined to vote for a variance.
Okay, thank you for that. Don?
Yeah, I'll go along and say that I would not vote for this either. I don't believe that the applicant has made a good case for why he needs to build on that property and need the variance in the first place. If he can figure out a way to do it without needing a variance and be able to satisfy Paul's judgment on the style of construction in the neighborhood, fine, but I'm not going to endorse that. I will say that we may want to structure whatever motion we come up with regard to both the variance, yes or no, and our endorsement of Paul's decision regarding the property. Either one of those are reasons to deny the variance, and I'll point to either one of them as the reason why I would say no.
Okay. So it's worthy of a consideration. Thank you, Don. And then last, Noel.
So I've been trying to see, I don't see it on that site plan itself, what the width of the parcel is. Can somebody see that on there? What is the actual width of the parcel we're trying to develop here? Is it 45 feet?
It is 59.9 or 59.6 feet wide.
The lot itself is?
At the right of way, it is 59.69.
So, I mean, that's a standard lot width in downtown neighborhoods. You know, that's bigger than a standard lot width in some of the old Plata Vaster and Plata Navarino and some of those, right? Weren't Alderman Stoyer, you mapped plenty of those, wasn't that 55.6? That was the standard for those lots. I lived for over 20 years on a lot that was 40 feet wide in downtown.
Yeah, I agree with you, Noel. I mean, there are many lots in the city, and even in my district, if you go out down toward West High School, you have a lot of lots that are 45 feet, you know, maybe a little wider, a little less. And I agree with you, but I just think that, you know, most of the lots
I hear you on that. I'm just trying to point out, I think these are developable lots if you take an approach to them that, you know, they don't necessarily require a variance to put up a
right
that fits on them. One of the things I'm trying to also understand, and maybe the petitioner can answer this, is there something different about the south lot versus the north lot with respect to the easement that's creating a narrower building envelope for us? Is that the challenge?
The north lot is actually wider. Taylor opens up as it gets to Dousman.
Okay.
It kind of balloons. It was an aerial picture, but it kind of ballooned out.
Yeah. And then the other question I was thinking of for the petitioner was, part of what makes your footprint wider is the walking back past the stairwell and then coming up a staircase exterior to the building to the front second floor patio. And so you've got the width of the walk at the ground level. That's also part of the footprint you're working with. And if you could turn that around, I suppose you'd be either putting the patio then on the other side of the house, or you'd be having to go through the house to get back out to the front patio. But that would narrow it up and maybe give you the 4 feet you're looking for to not or shift the house. But no.
The width that we have of 22 feet goes from the edge of that utility easement to the east. If we go from the utility easement over to an 8-foot side yard, we have 18.8 feet, I believe it was, of buildable space.
Got it.
The other option is going to a single story, but I don't know if I think it would be a variance at that as well, because we'd be under the 22 feet of minimum width for a structure in the city of Green Bay. So we've narrowed everything up. The single story would allow us 6 feet on the side versus 8 feet. But there again, we would still need a side yard variance for 2.5 feet.
At this 20 different ways already.
We looked very, very hard at this and tried to come up with the best solution. We tried to make everything profitable and be aesthetic and be nice in the neighborhood. At least that's what we were looking towards.
So
Okay.
I got one more follow-up here. So is this, so when you say the width of the lot is 59 feet, that's because this berm and easement is part of the parcel?
Correct. That berm and parcel and the trees, which we plan on keeping, not removing. It's nice landscaping. It's nice atmosphere. That is part of the parcel. The whole constraint is where Lee Energies ran the power line.
Yeah.
Typically, they're run right down the property line. In this case, they ran it a third the way through the lots, which were not represented in any way with the sale of the parcels.
Yeah, and I apologize. I've been looking at that kind of that dashed line or that dotted line just next to the walkway as being the, you know, the other limits of the parcel. So in terms of that footprint, that's only like 30 some feet.
We are 22 feet wide with that structure.
The structure itself, but I mean that area between the easement and the other lot line, how wide is that?
26'7" from the lot from the property line on the east to the 15-foot utility easement east of the power lines themselves.
Got it. I understand now. And if you take 8 feet off of that, you're less than 22. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions.
Okay. I don't have any additional comments. I kind of agree with everybody. I do think it's important for just a comment, you know, if you look at the application, there's a 3-step test. And when we go through our training for this board, it's 3 things, right? It's does it harm the public in any way? Does it allow you to build on your property in a way that you should be doing? I'm failing to be able to read it perfectly, but anyway, there's 3 steps. And I do think it's important for us to understand, one, there's public harm potentially being, for at least a comment for me, that is being discussed here. And the goal is for all 3 of those things to be checked off that allows us to move forward. And for me right now, I feel like there's still some work to be done with this property. At least my comment is within the public sphere to get a workable solution here. And that goes to the aesthetic. You know, there's a lot of public sentiment from the city and also from neighbors that it just doesn't fit. And I think that is a public thing. And then also, you know, a neighbor that is not super happy. It is important to note as well that pending how the lot is designed, it doesn't sound like there might be a solution here, but if there was a way to find a structure that worked, there is no problem with someone buying this lot and developing on it. You know, it just has to fit within certain code requirements. So while we might be denying or approving a variance, it doesn't stop someone from being able to purchase the property and being able to develop it. It just has to fit within the code or get a variance that makes sense. So just comments for the record. Are we ready to make a motion here, gentlemen? No, Noel, you're not ready to make a motion, or you're not going to make a motion?
I'm at a loss as to what to do. I mean, I on the one hand, we've got such a need for new dwelling unit construction in the community and in the county. We're short, you know, potentially thousands of units overall. I hate to stand in the way of the development of a property, but at the same time, I'm not sure that the proposal that's before us tonight is the right one for this lot. So
yeah, and I think that's what I was trying to get at. I agree with you, is that we've looked at stuff and it looks like the utility and the easement, right? If we looked at other properties that we've made variance requests to, you know, does it allow you to build on the property within, you know, a typical use for that, right? And that's what's creating the problem, is on that I don't want to know directional, but I think it's the west side, you know, and that's constraining that property. And we've done before where we've approved there. And that's why I'm not necessarily commenting personally on that, because we have made approval. To me, it's the public, the second step, which is, does this harm the public good? And I think the design can be looked at. I think the aesthetic of it can be looked at. You know, I think there's possibly a way to develop this property. That's not for us to figure out. I think it's to look at those 3 steps, say, does it check, and then we can approve a variance. And for right now, I'm missing one of those right now. Doesn't mean they can't come back with a different approval, but for me right now, it's not there yet.
Well, the question.
Sure, could I make one more point?
Sure.
I think Mr. Van Remortel brought up a good point, and you know, the applicant said they were privy to the land being for sale, like it was an auction. And I guess that's a little concern of mine, like, you know, that the neighbor wouldn't have an opportunity to bid or look at something like that. And I don't know if that, you know, that's a whole nother can of worms. But to me, that just doesn't, you know, it doesn't seem totally fair in that sense. So I just wanted to bring that point up, but I'd like the email that I sent to you also to be added to the testimony if need be.
Yep, I got that one. That was directly from you.
Yes.
Yeah, we got that. Okay, great. I'm looking for a motion here, gentlemen.
Well, there was a suggestion earlier from Tom, I think, to have 2 motions, one affirming Paul's aesthetic, and then another one for the variance.
Yeah, we can consider that. For me personally, I don't necessarily think for me personally, I don't think we need that. I think to me, it's looped together, at least as I've stated my case or my thoughts, that, you know, option 2, it's a public thing. Don, you could disagree, and I'm open to that feedback. Again, I want to get this right.
Somebody just make a motion, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you're the motion guy. You're so good at that. Not on this one.
How about this? How about this? I move that we deny the variance as requested.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion on the table by Mr. Carlson and seconded by Mr. Hoy to deny the variance as requested. Any more discussion from the board? Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in, remember, we're voting in, this is always where it gets tricky, but we're voting aye for the denial or nay for the denial. So it's the opposite of what we normally do, okay? All right, so all those in favor of the denying of the variance say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those oppose the denial say nay. Okay. All right, so that's a denial of the variance. And again, I understand these can be really difficult, but continue to work with city staff, see if there's options for potential development of that property. And if there's variance requests that are maybe different, bring it back to the board. But thank you for your time. Mr. Wolf, I very much appreciate the time that you spent. Mr. Van Remortel, thank you for the participation and the comments, and obviously Alder Stoyer. It's been a long night. I think this is the longest meeting I've ever been part of. My family, I'm at the Dells, and they're like, "Hey, let's go eat dinner." So
you can join us at a council meeting.
Yeah, I was there till midnight one night, waiting for me to get approval for construction at my business.
We had one that went till 3:30 in the morning, so I just want to let you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Let's take a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Don. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, good. Motion carries there. All right.
So
I would normally.
I just got a message. Paul is off of plan commission and he's coming back.
He doesn't need to. Tell him
no.
We're wrapping up.
You done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Normally I would say, guys, let's talk about some procedural stuff, but God help me, we're not doing that tonight. So let's pick it up next month.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion.
All right. Sounds
Second.
great. Thank you.
Second. Hey, thank you for your participation, Madison. We appreciate it. It's good to see you. You jump in anytime you want.
You know, I feel like I was just kind of thrown in.
That's good.
In 30
That's good.
minutes. So I
That's how.
apologize if I didn't have more information.
Don't worry about it. It's all
Right, all
good.
right.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right.
All
All
good.
those in favor of adjourning? Aye.
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 Aye. Oppose? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good
Enjoy
job,
your
Tommy.
month. Thank you,
Excellent
sir.
job, sir.
I appreciate it. You all
Get
did
the
really
water
good. A
slide,
lot of
Tommy.
stuff here. Yeah. We're gonna get dinner in a car or a bus or something. I don't know, something weird. All right. I'll
Take
see you
care.
guys
Bye.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.